so much for inviting us to be here with you tonight. Certainly our pleasure. My name's Scott Cornegay. I'm the Bradford County Manager, and this is our Fire Chief, Ben Carter. I'm pretty sure most of you know my background, but for those in the room who do not, I'll take a minute just to go over a little bit of my history. I spent 11 years in the United States Air Force in the Florida Air National Guard as a military police officer, and then spent nearly 24 years on the Jacksonville Fire Rescue Department as a lieutenant paramedic on Jacksonville's west side. The last 4 years of my career at JFRD, I was assigned to headquarters, where I was a project manager and administrative officer. At that time, we had a $220 million budget, 1,300 uniformed personnel, and over 100 civilians at 56 work locations. So there was quite a bit of experience packed in those 24 years. I left that job a little early to become the city manager in Keystone Heights, where I was manager there for 4.5 years. And then I was asked to stand up an economic development nonprofit in the Lake region, which we did. A very successful operation there for 2 years. And then, of course, back in October of last year, I became the Bradford County Manager. So that's a little bit about my background. Several months ago, the city manager approached us about the possibility of consolidating the Bradford County Fire Rescue Department with the City of Starke Fire Department. We had several opportunities to sit down and talk, discuss particulars, and determine the best path forward. So that's what we're here for tonight, is to present you a very short and very concise plan for consolidation. We'll go through it. It'll be quick, and then of course we can take as much time as you like for questions or any discussion you'd like to have. What I mean, that's really.
We just did the download.
All right, so the numbers that Chief Carter has come up with that he received from the City of Starke, Bradford County Fire Rescue will receive annual payments of $875,815 from the City of Starke. This amount will cover the 6 FTEs, the 6 firefighters, as well as associated operational costs. The City of Starke will continue to employ and pay the salary and benefits of the current fire chief. The City of Starke will continue to make payments on the existing fire engine. The City of Starke will lease the current fire station facility in Bradford County for an annual sum of $1. Bradford County will move select personnel to the Starke facility for centralization and efficiency. This will allow for a concentration of personnel that will mimic the current arrangement of the 4-person engine company and create a fire department hub for the county. I think this is a really important piece of the plan, is so that we don't. I understand that you're reducing your manpower whether we come to any sort of arrangement or not. So, but this is the county's way of trying to build that back and mimic the level of service that you're currently accustomed to. So that is the plan. That is the financial plan. Chief Carter and I can answer any questions that you might have, and we'll be more than happy to.
We're going to have some questions. I'm sure we got some from the. I'm going to try not to holler at you, but I know. I'm sure we have questions up here at the city council, and we're going to ask them. At this point, I think it's proper that you plan to speak on the fire. I have things up here, so when you come, if I call your name, just come and speak on the fire. You will have 3 minutes to do it, and then we'll go to the next person. So y'all just hold on. We'll have some. The council will have some questions for y'all. Maria Wells. Maria Wells. Okay.
Hi, good evening.
State your name.
Maria Wells. and I'm here in support of the fire department. I've only had to use 911 twice in my life. The first time was for my son. He had a seizure. And the second time was for my dad, John Wayne Walker. And both times, the first responders were the fire department. And they were able to calm my nerves and, you know, get the details and everything else, something that I couldn't do with the dispatcher. So to lose any of those men would be, you know, a tragedy because they are so important to the city. And thank you for my time.
Thank you. Okay, we have, Judith Young. Judith Young.
Good evening. My name is Judith Young. I am a homeowner here in the Historic District. I am employed by a local business, and I am somebody who volunteers my time to the city with our 4th of July festivities that we're holding. I am somebody that loves my community. I am somebody that has a lot of appreciation for Starke Fire because I see them in action almost daily. My home is in the Historic District. My neighbors are elderly. I'm surrounded by them. These are people that have been in their homes for a long, long time. And they've had their health problems, and I've seen Starke Fire drop everything and be there in seconds because I literally live right around the corner from this station. And when buying my home last year, knowing that station was so close was a comforting fact. And now I'm looking at the county taking this over, and guess what I'm being told? I'm looking at higher taxes as a homeowner due to this happening. This is supposed to be great for everybody involved, but me as a homeowner, I'm not looking at it that way. It's more money out of my pocket. You're promising to mimic the same level of care by consolidating. Those were the words that I just heard. And I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing men and women that love this community lose their jobs. And I'm seeing my neighbors and myself and other people that chose to live in Starke because of the level of care and protection that we got. You're telling us it's going to cost us more money. You're telling me that there's going to be 2 men at a station, and if my house catches on fire and my son is trapped inside, those 2 men at that station are going to have to wait for another unit to come before they can enter that structure and save somebody. How does that make sense? I mean, through all of this, I'm trying to figure out how all of this makes sense. Oh, it saves money. It's saving the city and the county money, but it's not saving the residents money, and we should be the ones that matter the most.
John Latorna. Sorry, I didn't pronounce that right.
Last name's LaTurner.
Latorna. Okay.
I moved here 7 years ago. Thank you for giving me the ability to speak. I've never done this before. I live over in Saratoga Heights. Moved here 7 years ago. I have a sick wife. And several times the fire department has come down and helped us out. They help my neighbors. When she falls down, she can't get up. They're there. Doesn't matter how many times this happens. They're there. I moved to this town because this is the last place for me. I've worked hard all my life, and I chose this town to live. But I don't like what I'm hearing, and I don't like what I'm seeing. I'm a taxpayer. I own my house. I've worked hard all my life. But yet, I felt I had a good base of structure here. I'm wondering now. I'm seriously wondering about the thoughts that are going through each and every one of your heads right now on what you're going to do. One, for the care of this community, okay? The men and women that are involved that give their lives to run into those buildings, and you're just going to throw them out down the road. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna stand for that. I'm not gonna be one of these guys that sit back here and just don't say anything. I have a lot of questions, and I'm gonna get the right answers, because from what I'm hearing right now, I don't like what I'm seeing. I see good men working hard to keep us safe, and my wife, she goes over here to the dialysis center here 3 times a week. At least once or twice, the fire department's there, helping them bring out patients that had problems during the dialysis session. So I'm just telling you, I'm not gonna stand back here and just watch this happen. I didn't know about this, I just heard about this. When I came home, my daughter told me, Dad, this is what's happening. I said, no, this can't be happening. No, they're not foolish enough to do something like this. But now what I'm listening to, I'm real upset, and I'm very concerned about what I see up here. Thank you for your time.
Sarah, light. Yep, light, left. Light. Sarah.
Just one.
Light.
Like that. I'm gonna have to read this because I read this too much. My name is Sarah Light, and while I currently do not reside in the city of Starke, I do live in Bradford County. I travel through town, do business in this town. My child goes to school here, so I have vested interest in what's going on. For those that are pro-dissolution of police or fire services, the belief that doing away with those services, maybe lower your taxes and there'll be no loss to your service, simply is not true. The county is unable to efficiently staff and run services for the area to which they are currently charged with serving and protecting. The thought that turning safety accountability over to a single agency that will perform these operations for less than what the city is currently operating on is a smokescreen. The safety and security of all citizens within the city of Starke is the foremost responsibility of the chief of police and the fire chief. While both the chief and sheriff are charged with this immense task, the real and potential threats that are present on a daily basis simply cannot be overestimated, and the continued segregation of these departments facilitates the surety of the best possible service for all citizens. I have some experience in law enforcement, public safety. I've been a dispatcher for 26 years. I have total understanding of the importance of response times, staffing, budgets. Those things are not lost on me. Like I said, I do not currently reside in the city limits. And I have sadly experienced waiting for law enforcement to arrive to my home for a domestic battery emergency. And I waited for over half an hour for a deputy to arrive to my home. How is this okay? And how are we okay with this response time? I'm aware that in an emergency, time is of the essence, especially in medical and fire emergencies. During those emergencies, fire department and police are often dispatched to assist EMS because of their close proximity to the address. God forbid if my child were in a drowning, I know as things stand right now, there will be a police officer or firefighter, paramedic to my child in 2 to 3 minutes. How is that response time going to be guaranteed without the same amount of officers or firefighters that we currently have? There's many scenarios I can speak of and understand that defunding of public safety is being considered under the guise of saving the money, the city money. But I ask you this, at whose expense? Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Schubert?
Glenn Shuford, 615 Holly Road. So I come to you for 17 years experience in the fire service, 9 years in the city of Gainesville, hazardous materials captain with the local emergency planning committee that controls 13 counties, about 500,000 citizens, 28,000 of them here in Bradford County. I'm also a local 2157 union member. I'm the vice president. But I come at you with a couple things. $875,000 not worth the quality of what you get out of the experience that you get from these guys out there. I Having two-man engines and the danger you're gonna put these guys in, put the citizens in with their wait times, is not worth the risk. If you consolidate, you control nothing. You don't control the police chief, you don't control the fire chief, you don't control nothing. Right now, you have an opportunity to give the citizens what they want, what they deserve, what their taxes are for. They should be receiving the highest quality and the greatest safety that they can receive. Right now in the city of Gainesville, I don't know if y'all look at the news, right now there's an overturned tanker of 5,500 gallons of cycling. Extremely toxic and flammable liquid. The interstate's gonna be shut down for almost 24 hours. That stuff is traveling through this county on a daily basis. I don't think y'all truly understand the type of materials that come through this and what it actually takes. This ain't enough, right? This ain't enough for a regular fire service for a structure fire. 12 minutes is what it takes for Bradford County to respond to the city. I live 2 minutes away. These guys are at my house in 3 minutes. They do a great job. Bradford County, Ben Carter, does a great job. But these guys have, when were y'all put in place? 1886. That's a lot of tradition, a lot of experience. I think y'all should look at that, think the quality you got and the guys that you got, the quality that you control. So, thank you.
Okay, that's all I had on the fire. Did I miss anybody? Okay, Sherry Boyd. Sharice, I'm sorry. Sharice?
Hello, my name is Sharice Boyd. I do have a protected address. I do not reside in Starke or even in the county, but I do work here. First, I want to say that we can't hear you out there, so if you could utilize your microphones, it would be appreciated. Second, I worked in fire and rescue for Prince William County for several years, and I do understand how volunteer fire, city, local, etc. My thing is, everybody's saying it's saving money. We're worried about saving lives. If it is saving money, I ask that you present publicly a cost-benefit analysis, and in addition to that, what it's going to cost long-term for the FRS, for the county employees, because the county pays more than the city. Next to that, think about the amount of jobs you're putting out and the people and the cost of living now. I do work in low-income housing, so I can tell you, there's no shortage of homelessness, and you will increase it by doing this. Last, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to speak quickly for about 3 minutes, you're elected, period. That's all there is to it. You're elected. This should probably go on a reformation before you can vote on this, and put it to the city people and let them vote. It doesn't matter. Election it's fair. But no, it's just fair. I mean, you're elected, and why not a lot of people who gave you your job, voted you in with confidence, whether they agree or disagree on your decisions, you're here. Give them that opportunity, because without them, neither of you would be sitting here. So that's all I'm asking. Thank you.
All right, that's all I have for the fire. At this point, if I could have Ben and Scott Cornegay come up to the council. You can make comments or ask questions. I can start at the end down there. Mr. Nugent.
Okay. Well, my question is, I'll keep it simple. I'm not gonna make it a secret, I'm not in favor of consolidation. That's a public knowledge, so I wouldn't tell you that. But I'm looking at what you're saying, that one, thing that bothers me, we have no control. And two, you want $875,815 from the city. Right now, city residents pay extra tax for the fire employees. And I, as a resident, I have no problem with that, because the fire service we get from most departments. However, if unfortunately, if my vote doesn't count enough, and we lose the fire, or the fire department's talking about that, we already pay as a I already pay taxes as a resident. I don't feel like the city should be paying for something, an extra tax, because we already pay county tax for fire. So the $800-some thousand, I don't think the city, if we do have to do this, should pay that. And also our building of that is ours. and we could lease it out for a lot more money, and also the equipment, if the county wanted it, they should have to buy the equipment. And if that was to happen, but, right now, I like it the way it is. I think we've got professionals, and also not saying the county doesn't, but I feel like for the, what we pay and what they put into it, that's all I'd say.
Okay. Commissioner Mortimer?
Yes, sir, thank you. I have a question for Drew. Drew, what was our, fire department's budget for this year?
For this year, or the proposed?
For this year and the proposed?
For fiscal year '23, it was 1.6,
1.6,
and for the proposed, it was 1,044,000.
1,044,000? Okay. What is the balance on the fire truck is what? And the, years left?
It should be around 250,000, and that is about 2.5 years worth of payments.
Okay. Okay. And, Gary, see,
Yes, ma'am.
how many fires did we respond to last year?
In the past, from April 1 of 2022 to March 31st of 2023, we responded to 35 building fires, 15 brush fires, 14 vehicle fires, and 11 other fires, which is considered dumpsters, power pole, illegal burning, anything like that. Total calls that the city started running in that time frame was 1,185 calls.
Okay.
Medical calls, that's just fire calls.
Okay,
Defined
yeah,
fire department call,
Okay.
i.e. vehicle crash, road obstruction, hazmat, bomb threat, fire alarm, smoke investigation, special detail, 1185
Okay. Thank you.
in 1 year. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have, sir.
Mr. Reddy?
Yes, so this number, theoretically speaking, if it's accepted, what about the next year, and the next year, and the next year? Why not set a certain number of mills or something like that?
So we have discussed an escalator clause. We have not finalized that amount yet, but we're in agreement. And we've discussed tying it to a trailing economic indicator such as the CPIU or maybe the SSI. And it would, of course, have a floor and a ceiling. So if it ever got below or above a certain percent, it would be capped. If it ever got below a certain percent, it would be capped at the minimum level as well. But we haven't firmed that up yet. But that is the plan going forward.
All right, so the one thing you had in there, it said it covers 6 FTEs, so that would be 2 people per shift, correct?
Correct.
And we're currently at 4 people per shift. So I know one of the things that I asked about, and I asked for when we decided to have this meeting, was to be presented information as it sat with 4, 3, and 2 people. Drew, where it took us down to the proposed 1,044,000, that puts staffing at how many people?
That put it at 2 per shift, say 6.
Okay, so, all that being said, I myself would have liked to have seen those numbers. You may not have gotten that information or that request, but I think it's fair that we compare apples to apples, you know, and you don't want to look at getting a Cadillac and we're going to a GO budget, you know, and you want to be able to see and do that cost benefit analysis just like we mentioned before. So that's my take on that. So with 6 FTEs, where do the other 6 guys go?
Well, it's
And I know I'm asking you this question, which
Yeah,
is probably a question
it
for
was
other
our
people, but the crowd wants to hear.
Sure. So it was our understanding when we first sat down with the leadership that the city of Starke was going to go to a 2-man engine company regardless of what the county put.
With that proposed budget, yes.
So that's where we got it from.
I appreciate that.
Commissioner, I can
Sure.
tell you also that we currently have 2 vacancies in the county fire rescue department. I've held those vacancies open until all this gets sorted out, because I would like as many of these firefighters to have a place to land as possible. So I fell off on hiring and filling those positions until we get through all these negotiations.
It's hard to feel good about stuff like that.
Out of
when you
respect
got-
for the men that work for this department.
Right, okay. Just to echo what Commissioner Mortimer said, if it's a true consolidation and you're taking ownership of it, why do we keep another $250,000 in debt? I know it's our debt that we incurred, but that equipment is gonna be used. It's gonna be, you know, so basically we're paying, you know, over $1 million initially for what we're looking at, so I just want that to be said. Chief, out of those calls, the 35 building calls, fire calls, brush and everything else, are all those in the city? Do you have the breakdown for the services that are currently being expended in the county?
This is the calls from January 1, 2020, all the way to 5/1 of this year.
Okay.
City of Starke responded to 3,099 calls, 75 total fires, 1,797 EMS calls, 147 hazardous condition calls, 77 service calls, 213 good intent calls, 8 severe weather or natural disaster calls, 10 special incident calls. We've had 12 malicious false calls and 137 false calls, non-malicious, just fire alarm type deal. We responded into the county in that same time frame 619 times in those 3 years. The county responded into the city 78 times. We've had 1 fire-related death in that 3 years. That's a black mark on me as the department, but we did what we could. The person was deceased fire rescue, but that's what we've run the past 3 years to May 1st.
I think the last thing I have, and you guys been able to do any research on retirement and picking stuff up if things were to change and how that would play out?
No, we haven't. We know that they would move into the FRS because that's what Bradford County participates in. The details of that have not been worked out. As a matter of fact, there's not even really been any conversation with that. We wanted to see if this was going to move forward before we put, you know, put the effort into that.
I'm good, Ralph.
So Chief, basically, we're going into the county 4-1. Roughly.
Close to it.
Okay.
It's not
What year did the Bradford County Fire Department establish?
2020.
2020. Okay, so they're all right. Commissioner Mortimer and Commissioner Redding asked some great questions, pretty much what I had. At this time, I have no desire to merge with the county on our fire department. I think our guys are top notch, and I think we're just keep going where we're going. So at this time, I'm good.
All right, those are good questions. Some of these are statements. Do I think we have a great fire department? Are they great people? Absolutely. We're not here, I'm not here, to say anything bad about this chief or the people that work for the City of Starke. They do a good job. But we do have other things going on besides the police and fire. And all the comments about, it's not about the money, I totally agree with you. It's not about the money. But it does play in there, okay? I'm not looking at this with just money. This concern about these calls that we have, we're going to have a fire station right there where the ones we have now, okay? For the two, that's in debate. But as far as these calls and going to these houses, and my dad who passed away, I had these guys come to my house, we can all get emotional about that. And I understand it. But Ben and his people are gonna show up too, because they're good people. The people we have working for us are absolutely the best people. I have nothing to say bad about the Starke Fire Department. They are good. So this concern that we have that we're doing away with service is a wrong perception. They are going to be over there. And as far as letting them lease that thing, lease the building, one of the concerns is service. So why not let the service continue right next to us? So yes, absolutely use the building for $1, because we want our service to stay the same. The fire truck, let us pay it off, because y'all will be able to do better service with that fire truck. If we wanted to make it about the money, we would not be concerned about our chief. We would not be concerned about that fire truck. Let's sell it at auction. We would not be concerned about that. We could lease it to whatever we wanted to lease to make $1. But I can just speak for myself. I can't speak for these guys. But it ain't all about the money, okay? And if y'all think it is, talk to me after the meeting. Because I can tell you, I was born and raised in this county, born and raised in this city. Nobody cares about this town or this city more than I do. I don't care if you moved here 1 year ago or 100 years ago. I assure you, my decisions are based on what is the best for Starke. Will you agree? Maybe not. But I can tell you one thing that won't be questioned is my dedication to this service, why I was put here by the people, and yes, you do have a say-so. I cannot be elected and somebody else can make this decision. And you know what? I would be fine with it. But to sit here and say that I don't care about this town, and I don't care about the service that's being provided, is way out of line with me. I can tell you that. Now, these guys said they can come in and make the service the same. I believe them. You may not believe them, but I believe them. That's an opinion, and everybody's entitled to their opinion. But the opinion are based on different things, and I'm basing my opinion on a lot of things besides the money. So don't think I am just looking at this thing by the money. Okay?
You guys have been spending a lot of it.
I'm sorry, what now?
I said, you guys have been spending a lot of it.
Absolutely we do, because we try to provide the service for this thing.
An awful lot of other people in
Sir,
this town haven't.
sir, you don't have the podium right now, okay?
Well, neither do you.
I do have the podium right now.
But I'm a taxpayer and I have a right
And
to
let me
say
tell you
something if I
something,
don't like
and
it.
let me tell you something, the things we're doing, we're thinking of the taxpayer. Let me tell you something, we are spending money for fire and police. Going back a year before the proposed budget, we spent over $3.5 billion. So we do spend money up here. Now, if we want to get into debate on the service, that can be done all the time. Sir, I'm going to ask you not to make any more comments. If you, is it emotional to me? Am I getting a little hyped up about? Absolutely, because you're questioning my integrity. Sir, I'm going to ask you to leave.
No, I'm not leaving anyway.
You will not make any more comments.
I won't, huh?
All right, thank you, okay? I'm giving everybody a chance to speak, now let me speak. I get a little hyped up because a lot of the comments I hear is about if we don't do it or we do it, we're allowing the service to go down. In my opinion, it's not. I'm not trying to pit the service, the people that we have in our department now against the county's firemen. As far as I'm concerned, we got all good firemen in this county. City and county, I put them up against anybody. But to assume that I don't care or that we don't care about the fires that these gentlemen do, when we know that they're going to be sitting right there with their firemen are going to be going out doing it. So all these calls that the chief has, Ben's bunch is going to be going to them. So we're not doing away with the service. We're doing it to find and still have the same service over there. Now you may not think so. That's your opinion as far as that.
I apologize for getting a little excited about this, but this is a big deal, and I
We
appreciate.
should be voting on this, yes.
I'm sorry, what?
We wanna vote on this. We don't wanna leave it up to you.
We are going to vote on it.
Yeah, you guys are. We want our say too.
People, we the people have the right.
That's right.
We have the right. That's all.
All right, I have asked to have control of this meeting. I know it's an emotional thing, but let me tell you something. Y'all do vote. You vote us up here. Now, every decision that's made up here is not made by y'all, it's made by us. And we take in, and I've talked to a lot of people. And let me tell you something. I appreciate y'all's emotional side of this. I appreciate y'all's concern about it. That's what it's all about, and that's what this meeting is all about. And I really appreciate y'all coming out and stating what you stated. What I'm gonna do right now, because I feel like the meeting's getting a little bit out of control, I'm gonna ask for about a 5-minute break here, and then we're gonna get back in 5 minutes and get back on to the business that we need to do.
Oh, sorry.
You'll get sued. I said it, you'll get sued.
Wow. Keep it rolling, keep it rolling. Yeah.
I'll bet you. You gotta calm down. I understand.
Oh, yeah, let's hear that. All right. Yeah. Wow. Well, it's the people. Oh, okay. Yeah. Hey, bud. Yeah, I was at the art meeting. That's okay, you didn't know. Michael Heater called me right at the last minute. What's going on? Looking good. You're alive, but then what are you going to do? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Or this person, I know whatever I'm So, yeah, we got 50 live or so far. It's not too bad. Yeah.
Your brother. Oh, yeah. Your brother. There ain't no doubt about it. You try to sneak him back.
Oh, no. No, but you understand what I was saying, right?
Yeah.
You feel like you're getting a better deal if you buy it early?
Yeah.
To make you buy it early. That you see what I'm saying? No.
I'm not saying.
Hey, Bubba. Hey, Bubba.
Hey, Roger, Dodger.
Yes, sir.
I'm not selling nobody feet.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Well, we'll talk about that as we get there. We got some. Did you notice this handsome man sitting here ready to get a hug? All right.
Calm down. Yes, I will.
Oh, yeah. God bless her heart. It's been so long since I've seen her.
I've get you.
got my aunt and uncle 50th on Sunday. They were
Val, just to let you know, to get you back at the next part.
No. Next card game, I'll be there. I'll be there.
Hey, I knew it. Hey, I told myself, I said, there was no way I was supposed to say. I knew you had a big card. But I wasn't going to flourish. We both had it.
That's right.
But it is what it is. It was good, though. Hey.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Hey, did you wind up winning it?
Yes.
Did you? Oh, good.
Brenda fell and
Okay, split it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll be at the next one.
Yeah.
All right. My car is right across. Yeah, no problem. We'll be after this is over. We'll be at the Let me go for it. Oh, I'm sorry.
Good.
You were supposed to be editing this down to 4 pages.
Yeah, I didn't get the memo. What time is it?
Huh?
Time is it?
I got this small print. Hey,
All right. First of all, I want to apologize. I got a little excited last time, so I'm going to apologize. But I tell you what, we're all excited and we should be. We're here to talk about something that's real. And I appreciate y'all's comments, but we do have to do it in order. So I will try to keep everybody in order. But I want to apologize if I got out of line with anybody, but I'm going to tell you something. It means a lot to me, too. And it means a lot to y'all. And I thank y'all for turning out and having y'all's opinion. So we will continue on, but we will run an orderly meeting. Okay?
Why haven't we heard from the fire chief and all this?
He's welcome to talk. He's welcome to talk anytime he wants.
Okay.
The fire chief can talk anytime he wants. Oh, yes. He knows that.
No, I don't know that.
I told you, you can
That
get
was
it.
last meeting, that
How
was
about
last
you?
meeting.
Listen,
I'm not gonna argue with you, Mayor. I said the last meeting, you said I was getting all this.
you and Drew are the ones that can talk on the fire.
Okay. That's fine.
Thank you.
That's right. I've had mixed,
Okay.
mixed deals.
All right. Absolutely. I told everybody out of respect to get from the chief.
I'm good. $875,000. It shows there that y'all are going to give this county, if this goes through, $875,000. That's gonna cover 6 firefighters and operational costs. But y'all are gonna continue to pay my salary and benefits, continue to make the truck payments. How much are the truck payments?
You said approximately 250.
$62,000 a year? Something like that, 62,000 a year? And on my, so our budget is $1,044,000. So you take my salary and benefit package, truck payment,
What is your salary?
my salary right now is $80,000. benefit package on top of that, I'm not sure. So that being said, you take those numbers there and add them all together, we're at 1,000 or $1,044,000. Why would y'all give up the city of Starke Fire Department if the numbers are the same to something y'all cannot control? To the county who's in just as bad a shape as we are, if not worse. Who's to say in 2 years, God forbid, ban anybody? The county's like, you know what? We can't afford this anymore. We're doing away with fire service. Now the city of Starke has nothing to fall back on. Y'all have no control of it if y'all get rid of it. We've been here for 137 years. That's a long time. I've been here 29 years. It's over half my life that I've dedicated to this city. Everybody in that department next door has got 13 plus years of vested interest in the city, with the exception of 2. Of the 12 guys over there, 10 of them have 13 plus years. Why would y'all give that up? If the numbers are going to be the same, leave them where they're at. That to me does not understand.
If I can ask a question.
Yes, sir.
The numbers are the same after we cut y'all back. So the thing is, and I know it's not a popular thing if we go to 2 men over here. But what are we gonna say here? We're gonna stay at 2 men, or we're gonna go 500,000?
That's going to be y'all's call on that. I will run that department however y'all tell me to run.
Well,
I can tell you this, a two-man department is going to diminish services unbelievable. Safety-wise, now these guys cannot do a thing inside of a structure fire until more people get there. If they do and get
how many
hurt.
fires did we have last year that you had to go in the building? I'm just asking.
All
Gary, I'm just asking.
35.
That was structure fires.
Building fires, 35 building fires.
Okay. As far as the fire, we had the 2 in, 2 out. And my understanding is not every county or city has them. Is that understand? Am I making a good statement there?
No, you're not making, everybody has 2 in, 2 out rules. The state of Florida
Do they
adopted
have
that.
4 men on the station?
No.
Okay.
No, they do not.
That's a guideline, I understand.
At multiple stations. Multiple stations.
I gotta control the meeting. I know everybody wants to say something. All right?
They have multiple stations. When they send out a unit or send the people to respond, they send the closest units to get there till they get the total amount of people they need.
And that's what would happen here when we go to 2 years.
I agree
Is that
100%.
correct?
Yes, sir. You're 100% correct.
I mean, if that's correct, I mean, that regardless if you're.
It's the response time.
I wish I could put 10 people on the truck, but there's times we got to do things, and the service as far as, they have 2 people on the truck to run in the county, we got people to back up. I understand, Gary, it'd be nice to have 4 people on the
Yes, it is. I can tell you this, the city of Starke Fire Department is the only department in Bradford County that can step off a fire truck and start fighting fire. So that means if we go to anybody's house and their mother, father, anybody's in there, we can go in and get them out. We can go in, pull the stove out before they burn their entire house down instead of just a kitchen fire.
And we can't do that if they combine with the city. I mean, okay.
If we have to wait 10 or 15 minutes, a stove fire is going to turn into a structure fire.
So you won't go in, I'm just asking the question.
No, I will not go in, and if any one of my guys go in on a structure fire without 4 people there, they will get this.
So if there's other 4 people there, not you, another 2, would you go in?
If there's 4 people there, they can go in.
So what do these other counties do that have 2? What do they do?
They have multiple stations. They're one department with multiple stations.
So
With
we have
multiple-
1 station inside the city now.
Correct.
Okay, so we will continue to have 1 station.
Yes, with less people.
Well, no more or less than what we budgeted for this next year.
I agree.
No more or less.
But that's what I'm saying, services will diminish. If you have to wait 10 minutes.
And that's what you, in your opinion, that's what it's gonna take for bank boards to get there with 10 minutes.
I've got 3 years worth of data.
But
I've got 3 years worth of data.
they got a paid fire department, they take 10 minutes to get to something in the city.
Sometimes, yes. Mayor, I've got stats. All these calls here, they made it in time 2 times.
Well, the 78 calls, you're saying that the
On these calls
county
here,
fire department showed up.
on time, within the time frame that is by, or by NFPA, 2 times.
So what is, so if the fire department is right over there, and there's, is my understanding that if you house it over here, is, and I'm asking, I don't, that there'll be, during the day, I know fires happen at night, I'm not, you know. The thing is, will there be more than 2 over there? Do you feel that some of the time, we're gonna have really more firemen than we've tried to budget for, is that correct? Is that?
I think there's 2 conversations happening. One of the conversations is reducing the number of staff that you have currently, regardless of whether it goes to the county or to the city, or stays with the city. And I think the other conversation is the consolidation. The proposal that we made was based on the city, the information that we provided was that the city's going to cut staff, and we want a presentation that's going to show 6 FTEs, which is what we've done. And so I want to make clear that that 6, that cut to 6 firefighters or 6 FTEs is not an idea of the county. So that's our proposal for what we were asked to present. As far as that goes, operationally, part of that operational plan would be to move one of our supervisors here during the day, or I'm sorry, one of the supervisors here 24/7. So moving our supervisor from the south end in Sampson City, moving them up here to the city, so that would add a 3rd personnel up there, and then whatever administrative personnel we have there during the day, Monday through Friday is a 40-hour employee.
I have a question. While Chief Carter's here.
Sure.
What are your plans for Chief Wise?
That would be up to figuring out with the city and the county. I think that it would be crazy to not use a man that has this much experience, and quite frankly, someone who I have a ton of respect for and admiration for, to not use him in some sort of leadership capacity in this structure. So that would certainly have to be worked out amongst the city and the county, but we'd have to figure out something along those lines. But
you don't have a plan at this time?
Not this time. It's something that honestly would have to be negotiated with our union as well. So that would all have to be figured out as far as how that would work, play into our upper administrative roles.
Am I okay to ask another question? So, theoretically speaking, the guys that would be absorbed, are they gonna maintain their salary? They gonna take pay cuts?
It would have to be looked at on an individual basis.
The pay structure consistent with what they currently have?
Again, it's
I
just
know
going to
he said
have to be looked
everybody,
at.
I think, had at least 10+ years experience.
Right, and with our current collective bargaining agreement with our union, that does allow for, to pay them for their tenure, essentially. So they would get credit for the years that they've worked if they came under the county's pay scales.
That's all I have about this.
Any more questions of the chief and Ben?
I got one for Chief. Chief, on retirement, on your funding and the pension plan.
Yes, sir.
How does that, is it the same as across the board with all the departments with you transferring over, or how does that plan?
My understanding, after speaking with the pension lawyer, if there is a combined city-county merger, it will be up to the employee to decide which pension fund they want to stay with. They can stay with the city, or they can go with FRS. It does not matter if that individual is vested or 1 week on the job. That's that individual's right to do, per Florida. So I don't know where that would come into play. The city would have to maintain the city retirement for whoever chooses to stay in.
Thanks, Chief.
And the retirees, and our current retirees.
Any other questions?
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, appreciate understand, I'm sorry there was a misunderstanding.
No, it's all right. It's okay.
John,
No, we good.
I told, I've had 100 people that absolutely.
Oh, I know, you said it last meeting. I'm, there's nothing.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
I
We
mean,
good.
no way we do this without you speaking.
Oh, I'm gonna
I
be.
mean, okay.
If I did, I'm gonna have to put that white shirt over there.
I agree with you, I appreciate it, I appreciate it being brought up, because there was a misunderstanding that needed to be crossed up now, so I appreciate it, and I apologize if there was a misunderstanding.
I do just want to add one more thing. I just wanted out there that I have a tremendous amount of respect for all the men who work over there at that department, chief as well. The county has a great relationship. Our EMS agency, well before we were established fire department, has a great working relationship with the city, with the department over there. And regardless of whichever way this goes, that relationship's going to continue, and I'll continue to support these men however I can.
It's gonna be done.
Let me ask a question, because it came up with the report on the 78, whatever, the calls there, the 450 calls. Is that the 78, y'all responded to the fires, and y'all don't go to the medical? Or, I mean, why, I'm just trying to understand, regardless of what happens tonight, when the county rolled, and there were this many fires, but y'all rolled 78, what am I missing here? Were some of those medical calls, some of those y'all were called off? Or, I mean, I'm trying to understand.
The bulk of these calls that we get into the county, probably 90% of them, 95% of them is medical calls to assist EMS.
Y'all's call.
We going into the county.
Right, but I'm talking about.
For them coming into the city, if we're busy, we're on another call or a fire or a hazmat or anything like that, we need assistance.
So, just so I understand for the future, the fact that it's lower is not that they're just sitting at their station.
No, it's just we can
Y'all
handle.
ain't cold.
We can handle it a little, because of the number of people we have, we can handle it.
Well, Mayor, we also worked out an agreement as well,
Right.
a couple of years back, to send the closest unit, essentially. We're all here, it doesn't matter what color shirt we're wearing.
Right.
We're all here to do what's right for the people. Right. And what's right for the people is sending whatever unit's closest. And so that's the agreement that we worked out when we went to a paid career fire department. That's the agreement that we worked out, was to send the closest unit. So
We've had a mutual aid agreement back when Bradford County was volunteers.
So when you say anytime you needed them, they were there?
If we need them to come in, they're gonna come to
So
us.
the difference-
Whoever it is, it might be Lottie, it might be Theresa, but
The
somebody
difference
come
in the
to us.
number wasn't because they wasn't dispatched or anything like that. It was because you didn't need them.
Correct.
If you did, they would have rolled
If
through
it's-
dispatch.
If it's a fire or an alarm or anything like that, it's automatically done. They automatically send the fire departments to us for smoke investigations, fires.
To both of you.
To both of us, correct. Automatically.
And then at that time, you assess whether he will.
I had a call the other day. They called them up to, you don't have your call that the other day, you canceled everybody, Collie Road. Got there and it was nothing to it. They canceled everybody. So that's a lot of that too, is they coming in and they're on the way, but we can cancel. It's easier to get them stopped and headed back than it is to get them rolling. So we can get there on scene and say, okay, we don't need this many people. We can start, all right, y'all don't need to respond, back off. We can go.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did have a question for you,
Yes, ma'am.
Chief Carter. You said you had 2 vacancies. How many full-time FTEs do you have with the county?
we have 53 FTEs currently.
53?
53, yes ma'am.
They're full-time?
Full-time FTEs, yes ma'am. And I currently have 2 vacancies.
And you have how many stations?
We have 4 stations that we operate out of currently.
Okay. Where, you said San Francisco?
Lottie, Theresa, Speedville, Sampson City. And then our main station here, we operate 2 rescues out of this station here.
Their fourth station has no fire.
Well, our 5th station has no
The
fire.
5th station.
Right.
So, okay. 5, 4. Okay, fine.
Now, the 53, how many are firefighters on the truck?
We probably have 32 firefighters out of that group. The rest are either single cert EMTs or paramedics that are assigned to the ambulance. So this includes both ambulance and fire for the county.
Okay.
Yeah, we're all under one umbrella.
Okay. I was asking for fire, but I was
Sure.
going to ask about the EMTs.
Yes, ma'am.
Answer that one. Okay.
any questions?
Wait, let me just ask you, just an inquiring minds question.
Sure.
What is your budget with the county?
Proposed or current?
Current?
Current budget we submitted was about 6.8 million, with grants and things of that nature that have to be added on top of that.
Okay.
I think we're looking at about $7.4 million budget for this fiscal year.
Okay, thank you, sir.
This one.
Yeah, just one point of clarification on that. When you talk about the call-outs, there's a specific matrix that dispatch goes by that automatically dispatches out us, county, depending on the matrix itself. So just want to make a point of that. Yep.
Need as many people as can, but I know that in certain situations, and I'm not saying bad or good, just bring it observation. Certain situations where everybody shows up. County, rescue, city. I think of when my father needed to, y'all.
Let a hurt kid come across ready and see what happens. Never mind the brother show.
Yeah, well, y'all showed up from dad and there was 10 hands there, so I understand people showing up. So your mom passed away. So, yeah. We always appreciate the service. And I hope that's not lost to anybody. So, I've had to use the service, and, my father just used it, not too long ago for a pass, so certainly I could give you a commercial on the service. So, that goes without saying. All right, is there any other questions, of the chief, both chiefs, or Scott, Drew, or anybody?
How's it gonna affect ISO?
That's a good question. I will allow it. Normally, I'm not trying to shut anybody out, I'm just trying to control the meeting. I've checked into it. I will make a statement because I know I've been on Facebook and people have said something that I'm an insurance agent. I will stand here and tell you, I believe in ISO. I've gone before the Bradford County, spoke on ISO. I've been in contact with all the firemen over the years. There's a bunch of factors that goes into the ISO. I, as an insurance agent, gets the end result. I have, as an insurance agent, tried to find out all the factors. That's not my business. I'm in the insurance business. And I'd be glad to sit down with anybody, somebody to go through that, because I've called Tallahassee, I've called everybody. I don't know how it's going to affect ISO. The thing is, well, we don't know. It is. I mean, you know, it's one of these things. I am a believer in the standards of ISO, and that's what it is the standards. So I will always speak on ISO. And like I said, I've been asked by firemen over the last 20 years to come speak on that. So you don't have to convince me of the importance of ISO. I know the standards that they do, and I know that there's also a conversation out there that it doesn't matter. So there's half the people out there that says it doesn't matter. I'm on the side to say it does matter. But as far as what it affects, we don't know that. I don't think, I'll make a statement, I could be wrong because I don't know, but I don't think it's going to jump at this point. Y'all have been through many of.
I spoke with ISO personally.
What did they say?
And they said, without coming and doing a full-blown audit, they cannot give me an answer. It will be affected, the calculations will be affected due to manpower.
But will it change?
Cannot tell you until they do.
See, I don't understand from an ISO standpoint. why
You
they
get
take
points
it.
per.
But anyway, that's another conversation. That's another conversation. I'll be glad to have with y'all off record about ISO. I'd love to talk to y'all about that off the record. I don't want to bore these people with ISO stuff. But anyway, with that said, I would entertain a motion to decide if we go forward with, we got other stuff to drill down with as far as the continuation, where we at with continuing, and stuff like that. So at this point, the will of the board to decide where we go from here after the fire presentation, I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion we keep our part of it.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
motion and a second, and, now for discussion. I will say this. I would hang in there with the fire department like it is. But to come back and put it back, I believe that I would stand by, and I know the firemen would disagree with me, to go from a 4 to a 2. What could happen though, we keep it, and then we end up going back to a 4, and I feel that, in my opinion, just my opinion, that we would still have a good fire department to do that with the backup of the county. You know that. So my feeling on this is, and Commissioner Smith said, we have preliminary voted to cut that down to somewhere around 144, somewhere around there. But my decision on whether to vote for it or not will be obviously contingent on whether we're going to stick with the one with the $1,044,000, or we're going to go come back and say whatever savings, whatever, we're going to go back and just put it back to what it is. That's my concern, I can tell you. It's not just the holding of the firemen, moving them over and stuff like that. So I can tell you that's where I come from. I have great respect for the city fire department. And again, I don't want to get out of hand here again. When my integrity as far as what I think is questioned, I get a little upset. So we can disagree, but I won't question your integrity if you won't question mine. You know, we can disagree. We all have opinions, and we all come at it from different ways. I do look at it from a fire department, but I also look at it, I was elected for the city of Starke. So there's a lot to consider here. And you all heard me, if I talk to people, you could be 49% something and 51 against it, or vice versa. But you got to come down, because I do get where everybody's coming from. So I do want to say that as far as from a personal standpoint. We have a motion to, the motion is to leave it like it is. Do I have that correct? Correct. Okay. All in favor of leaving it like it is, say aye. Aye. Andy, did you say aye? Yes, sir. Okay. Motion carries 3-2. I want to thank everyone that came out and spoke. I know some of these guys all my life. I see that. I know you since you were born. I know we disagree on this, but I can tell you, I have the greatest respect for each and every one of you. I just got to speak that personally. Because when we leave here, we still go run into each other in the restaurant. We still going to say hey to each other, even though we disagree. Okay? I can consider Gary a friend. I hope you still consider me a friend. We're going to talk. And it's okay if we disagree. You know, we're going to disagree. We're going to agree on more than we disagree. And that's the way I look at things. But I do appreciate the firefighters coming out. I appreciate everybody speaking. And it is a big deal. And I'm glad it is a big deal that y'all came out and spoke on it. So again, I thank y'all. I'm going to take about another 3-minute recess, 5 minutes. Take a 5 minutes. So we can then move on to another thing that's important. Thank y'all. Thank y'all.
This is David Rogers, host of On the Spot with David Rogers. Was just here at the Starke City Commissioners meeting. A big turnout here this afternoon here in beautiful Starke, Florida. A lot of things that they needed to discuss, but the main thing that the residents was concerned about was the combining of these fire departments, both the county and the city. A lot of people spoke, great speaking terms and things that some people said. But we just had the vote, and the vote is 3-2 to keep Starke Fire Department separate from Bradford County's Fire Department. So it made a lot of people happy, David, and everybody that's watching. and I hope you're happy as well. I hope that's the way you wanted it to go. But 3 votes to 2 to keep Starke's Fire Department as it is with the current budget. You can catch more of this on the Spot with David Rogers.
There's a lot of history there. Colonel Warren, we graduated together. I can go down a whole history with the police department. So to me, this is personal. It gets back to what we have to do each and every day. Let's look at our pocketbooks, the budget, and still provide the same or better service. So we get into it and say, what does the sheriff's office do each and every day anyway? Well, one is, with the sheriff's office, we're a full-service agency. We have everything from the jail, court security, animal control, code enforcement, mapping, 911, emergency management. So we do a lot. And we do that with a little over 100 plus employees. And we answer calls for service each and every day in a 300 geographical square mile area, including the incorporated areas of Brooklyn and Hampton. What am I pointing, Drew?
Down.
Down there. There we go. All right. So we look at it and say, what you do? So we want to take out warrant service excluded due to too many having been arrested by Lawney PD or Starke or BCSO serving a warrant at the jail. We want to take those out. We want to give you true numbers. We're not going to embellish anything. We're not going to pad the books. We just look at basic math. It's simple. Exclude vehicle maintenance, exclude utility call-outs, exclude test calls, happens all the time, prisoner transports, follow-up investigations, due to too many BCSO follow-up investigations that were generated at the Bradford County Sheriff's Office and show inside the city. Even though a lot of those calls do incorporate nearly over 800 calls a year personally requesting the Sheriff's Office from residents of the city of Starke. Exclude extra patrol. Way too many of those. We do extra patrol due to the fact that we're checking school doors all day long with the school protection deputies, the 5 or 6 that are inside the city limits at all times. So we take that out, and it says there's 14,570 CAD, computer automated dispatch service calls, include the 8,826 CAD service calls as noted above, equates to 5,753 calls per service. Divided by the 730 days representing the 2-year period, we didn't want to just give you a 1-year period, we try to give you a balance in regards to it, and got away from the COVID years. That really screwed things up and trying to find out where you're back. I could pick the best math year and throw it up there, we didn't want to do that. It equals 8 BCSO calls for service each day within the city limits of Starke. So we're already there. We did the math. You do it with the city of Starke, calls for service, taking away traffic stops, extra calls, follow-up investigations, taking those things that averages up to 10.2 calls a day. Was able to do the math. We said, well, for the deputies that are out for service and what they're doing, that's about an average of 1.2 more calls a day per day. If it's good as current. If for some reason y'all said, you know what, we can't afford the police department, we're going to do away with it. So I come here gracefully, because even if you cut the chief, and these men and women don't know what their checks coming from, or what's going to happen, and they start bailing ship, that leaves him short. Then guess who has to pick up the slack? I'm a constitutional elected. I have the obligation to do that. So I come before you being humble with what I ask for. So you look at serving arrest warrants, 63 over those 2-year period. That's where we actually arrested someone on an arrest warrant within the city on a city case. Traffic stops within the city, there was actually 2,707. You can see the red dots on the map. We traverse throughout the city all day long. Just a math number. So when we're traversing, we stop cars, we stop traffic. It happens. You see the red dots, give the areas located. In those 2-year period, 2,707 calls. Serving civil process. Courts. Obligated to do the courts. We serve civil process on the case they work, witnesses, subpoenas, testimony, jury, all those different things that come into fact of 2,366. That's the reason a lot of city residents, when I'm running for office, always say, I always see y'all. Well, I'm always conducting business. A lot of us are the courts, which is by law. The citizen vehicle unlocks. You got the Walmarts, the Winn-Dixies, and this doesn't include when myself and the chief call somebody. A lot of times it doesn't get logged as a call. It's supposed to, so I'm telling on myself. But a friend of mine calls and says, hey Sheriff, I'll send you a deputy. But the ones that call into the Sheriff's Office and it's logged as a call, in 2 years we had 382 vehicle unlocks within the city limits of Starke. Locked your keys in, your kid, you left them in there, your dog, a lot of times hits the lock. Everything's automatic locks now. In regards to it, 382. So we look, what would it look like? Starke Police Service to combine with the Bradford County Sheriff's Office. So we talked about it. It's been discussed when I was the police chief. It's been discussed for years. Do you put it on a referendum? Do you not put it on a referendum? Those type things come into play. Now, I'm not sure what I'm doing here. I'll get the right button in a minute. But we bring those together and combine them. You say, what does it look like? Does it look like the men and women that do it each and every day? Like I say, when politicians stand out of the way, they get the job done. Not a micromanager. Chief's not a micromanager. We call each other probably on a daily, sometimes daily basis, sometimes at least once a week. We touch base with issues that are going on. What affects you in the city affects us in the county, and vice versa. We always have, like I say, with the schools, we always got school protection deputies in the city. We've always got transports in the city. We got deputies that work in the jail in the city. So we're always here by an over-absorber, not a number anyway. Combining would allow services to be delivered more strategically, efficiently, and effectively with increased accountability and responsiveness. Bradford County and its municipalities are served by 3 general-purpose law enforcement agencies, with the 2 largest and full-time agencies enforcing all state criminal laws within the county. Now, I left you a little quote there from the Office of Justice Programs. It says the most common form of consolidation is between smaller county and city police agencies, those serving fewer than 50,000 populations. There are over 14,000 smaller police departments in the United States, some with inadequate operating budgets for personnel, often limiting community safety services. But most of the time, I'm going to be honest with you, your residents aren't going to know. Because when they are tied up on a wreck or tied up on a call, they're still going to get the service. They don't realize what the reason is. And I'll be honest with you, they don't really care what color the uniform is. What they want is when they call for help, they want somebody. It's that serious. Issues to analyze your current situation. The benefits of combined services. Challenges and issues of combining services. Because they're there, as we seen that earlier. The organization and governance, next steps, timeline, and estimated cost. Additional services provided by the Sheriff's Office. The Sheriff's Office responsibility says to enforce state criminal and traffic laws and county ordinances. Operate county jail and provides animal control service throughout Bradford County and its 4 municipalities. Geographic area of law enforcement in the incorporated region, including incorporated cities of Brooker and Hampton, although it has legal jurisdiction throughout the entire county. No more of this. Is that in the city? Did that occur in the city? No, I think it occurred out in the county. That vice versa happens all the time. In regards to that, that's the reason our lobby's always open for the women and men to be able to use our lobby with their laptops, so we don't have to say, we got to go back across town. Now they're here, call an officer, and they come to the Sheriff's Office and able to perform their calls. And their lobby's not always open, so we're there, dispatch can go to men, have a safe place to deal with the public. And it's under 24 hours surveillance. BCSO operates Bradford County Communications Dispatch Center and provides 911 service communications to all county, municipal police, fire, and emergency medical service agencies. Sheriff's responsibility coordinates the Bradford Union Special Tactical Team, participates in the Federal Drug Enforcement Agency's North Central Task Force, provides law enforcement services to the incorporated cities of Brooker and Hampton, employs 38 sworn law enforcement deputies. I know Ms. Moore was going to ask that. So I planned ahead. We also have 31 sworn corrections deputies. Provides 8 full-time school protection deputies to the Bradford County School Board that are always there. The Starke Police Department responsibilities: enforce state criminal traffic laws and municipal ordinances within the city. Employs 17 sworn law enforcement officers. Starke Chief of Police is an elected official. Those are all issues. Centralized 911 communications center, examples of successful coordination. Things they said couldn't happen in the past, and been one of the best things was a centralized 911 emergency communication center. Officers know what the other officers are doing by their laptops. They have their patrol cars, able to respond, see when assistance needed, when calls are holding. They can run your driver's license. They can do everything from their laptop instead of having to have these buildings and cities and workstations. Now their workstation is their car. So that's what happens. Talking too fast. I'll slow it. Gotta remind me, I told you those. BCSO criminal investigations for incorporated cities of Brooker, Law, and Hampton. The Bradford County Special Tactical Unit, myself and Sheriff Whitehead enjoyed back and forth, which has been deployed numerous times over the last, going on 15 years now. Joint records and reporting databases. It's nice. The chief can pull up when something's going on in the county. I can pull up when something's going in the city. We can read reports. If somebody comes to the Sheriff's Office and says, I need a report, I had an incident, we can print it right there. We don't have to send them to the police department. We can print that report, that accident report, those type of things. Then we have the emergency management operations for Bradford County. The benefits of combining services, combining departments, at least the Sheriff's Office and the Starke Police Department would create the opportunity to act more decisively and more strategically to achieve important new benefits that probably cannot be achieved without combining, such as, we call it geographical profiling. We have a problem in an area, windows being broke out of cars, or cars being burglarized. We know where the problem is because with that same system that Chief was showing you, keeps all those numbers, we plot it on a map. And we have a geographical profile and say, right in this area, we got a problem with somebody, probably this area. If it's randomly out in the county, randomly throughout the city, maybe not. But we do things such as that, drug units, working so we're not stepping on each other's toes, crisscrossing, working at problem areas that may be popped up in the city. We're not, well, that's a city problem, I'm sorry. I can tell you, my commissioners don't want to hear that. They want something done. So that's what we do. And these benefits include comprehensive public safety strategy, public confidence and support, operational policies and practices. I hope within the next year that our agency will become one of these state accredited agencies. It'll be the first time in our area. We're working with the Sheriff's Association who's given us money through grants. We've been able to get everything upgraded. We're in that process currently to being an accredited law enforcement agency. Something to be proud of. We meet the standards that are national. Accountability for results. No more pointing fingers at each other. It was his job, my job. He didn't get it done. It stops a lot of that. The jurisdictional flexibility, self-explanatory, longer-term efficiency, and cost containment. And I'll get into that a little later, how we cost containment, where you say, as Commissioner Redding said, well, that's the price you're saying right now. What happens 2 years from now? What happens 3 years from now? There's a way of doing that. And it's your general fund relief and cost savings. Challenges of combining law enforcement services. Combining law enforcement agencies won't be easy, and I stress that. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it is. It's not. You can see how complicated it can get tonight real quick. It involves complex political, legal, and financial issues that affect a number of constituents. It will require focused leadership and resources for at least 3 to 6 months to achieve formal combined services. This will be followed by several more months of patient adjustment and adaptive management to work out the inevitable kinks. What are the potential negatives? Perceived loss of control of the police function. Anybody tells you that, they're full of hogwash. I'll call them a liar. Because there's not either one of you commissioners up there that's ever called me and get what you was asking for. Or the results, or the information. I'm elected by these same people in the city limits of Starke as the same person that votes out in the county. I've sacrificed my blood on these streets of this community. They said, what if it's the next sheriff? Well, the next sheriff would be a fool to think that 4 of the largest precincts in the county vote from the city of Starke. And you hold them accountable. This is my commission holding me accountable. So, there is no loss of control. We assist with every parade. We assist with every special event. We just have the resources. It doesn't change that at all. The future of the police department personnel. These men and women deserve an answer. Every one of them, they have a family. They need to know what's coming from. The level of service, the cost control, and front-end costs. We'll address all of those. We have already combined many vital services, the communications that we talked about. When we merged years ago, you still pay less today, 17 years later, than you did when the police department and the sheriff's office comm centers merged together. I got the last budget of them. They're now state certified. Your communications people have to be state certified by the state. Our records management systems. So we all operate and they're painting, as Bob Miller or Sheriff Miller used to say, we're painting from the proverbial same bucket. So we're getting things done. More communications, the records management, animal control. When I took over as sheriff, that was a big controversy. I laughed. Sheriff Miller inherited that when I was the police chief. We had animal control for the county. He said he could do it better. He got it. I smiled. I became sheriff. Not so fun. Animal control can be a lot of work. And but in the meantime, the city, we worked it out because the citizens of Starke. And the way it was cost effective, what we already had budgeted, you haven't had to pay any additional services or money for the services of animal control. That was the way we was able to smooth it and work it out. We got 2 full-time employees there and use the inmates to clean and feed each and every day. Something they need to be doing. We assisting currently with code enforcement. There's some issues in the city and downtime. We have a code enforcement officer that goes around. He's also our civil process person. In the meantime, he's been assisting, so we have that. And assist with major crime investigations. Self-explanatory. Staffing, all Starke Police Department employees will be considered in filling vacant positions at equal or higher pay. Positions will be offered to employees who meet Sheriff's Office minimum established hiring standards. When you leave one and go to another, it's required by FDLE, you have to do a background check and do those things. Well, with us, there's a couple extra things in there, and I'll explain why. One is personal investigation of previous Florida law enforcement employment. When they come over, they should be entitled to maintain the same years of service that they had with Starke. And we do corporals, senior deputies, corporals, sergeants. They don't need to come in and say, oh, I got to start all over back to 3 years. I don't think that's fair to them. They've been committed to the streets. They've been doing the job already. They work on the same records management system, and they're qualified. And a lot of them are local and already know the streets. Why punish? I don't think there should be any punishment involved in that. It includes truth verification analysis. Every one of our deputies go through a voice stress analysis test, aka the polygraph's what used to be called. Now it's all digital. It includes a psychological testing by a licensed forensic psychologist with extensive background in dealing with law enforcement officers. That's because at any given time, one of the deputies may have to work in the schools. And under state law, you must have a psychological background to be able to work in the schools. So those are things, an extensive physical examination, the drug test that we go through that every deputy does. So that's your staffing salaries. Starting sheriff's deputy starts at $22.03 an hour. Credit given for prior years of experience. Holiday is an additional 84 hours of pay each year. Unless we get Juneteenth, then maybe we'll get some more with Juneteenth. And the Florida retirement system, which they contribute 3% of their salary to the Florida retirement system. Right now, that's currently with their holiday and starting salary, it's $50,000 and some change. Starting July 1. So the initial decision. Each governing body needs to decide for itself and quickly whether to participate in a serious exploration of combined law enforcement operations. See, both Bradford County Board of Commissioners and the City of Starke Commissioners are necessary participants. The planning effort should be guided by 4 principles: the effectiveness, the efficiency, the accountability, and the equity. Excuse me. Cost and budget considerations. Here, one time we talked about earlier, upfront cost basically is $37,000. Uniforms, weapons, body vehicle camera systems, transitioning vehicles and equipment. That's a one-time cost. Blue stripes, green uniform, change of blue to green, blue uniforms to green uniforms. We use a 9mm handgun. Y'all use 40s, I believe, Chief? Yes. It's 40s. So there's some transition costs there. Our cars are all equipped with matching in-car camera, body car cameras that they can't be adjusted. They get downloaded automatically in certain areas strategically, so they can't be tampered with. Those are type things that just falls in uniformly. And then the additional cost is $345,000. And we set that on the 1.5 annual millage rate, which would adjust annually, up or down, less, more. And you say, how can you do that? Well, the way we deploy our resources. We deploy manpower, not duplicating services. And in doing that, the way we deploy our resources, it's easy for us to be able to do because we already have the infrastructure. It's there. It's just how we move things around. North zone, 4 deputies out, you move it around, you added additional to the city, you got 5, and people say, how the heck do you do that? Go spend some time in Baker County. Population 7,500 for the city of McLean. They paid for 4 deputies, city of McLean. At one time, they paid nothing. They got mad with the former sheriff, said, we're not giving you nothing. See, that's a big responsibility on my board of county commissioners too. But by law, if y'all said we couldn't do it, I'd have to be responsible. And legally, when I looked into it, I can tell you that they said, yep, you're right, you give it to the sheriff, and we're going to charge MSTU. Well, guess what you get out of MSTU? About $1.5 million. So that's what we'd be left with. So after I come before you with real numbers, real math, and say this is what we can do it for, because you can say do it for nothing. It would be a task. I don't think it'd be fair to the men and women. So it is my job as the sheriff to make sure in the transition process, combine SPD personnel with sheriff's office fast-track hiring process, audit and transfer SPD evidence items to the sheriff's office. We have a source for that with FDLE to come and help us audit and get rid of a bunch of evidence, move it into our evidence. We barcode everything, and it's in a different system. Transfer temporary use of the SPD office to the sheriff's office up to a period of 6 months so we can get those things done. transfer all Starke Police Department law enforcement related equipment radios, which belong to the county, to the Intergovernmental Communications Fund. Anyway. Weapons, computers, gear. This includes 5 police vehicles. All other vehicles stripped of police equipment remain property of the city of Starke. Establish a review and reporting channel to facilitate communication between the city commission and the sheriff's office, which I would recommend the chief and the city manager. Chief's still going to be here. He's elected. He would have to be that person that says, "I don't know, sheriff," and then we have to have a way to dispute it. To the city manager and the clerk, and got the checkbook. By the way, he's a little tight, I think, in regards to it. But those are the type of things that you have to establish this review, and so that way we have a way of communicating. The responsibility: the city of Starke Council is statutorily responsible to provide law enforcement services to its citizens. They are also physically responsible to the citizens to provide such services at the most economical cost at their disposal, as long as this would not sacrifice the level of service. The proposal from the sheriff's office clearly dispels the misconceptions in opposition to combining agencies, while providing as good or better level of service at a significant savings to the city it already serves. Misconceptions. Often there are misconceptions that coincide with these combining agency contracts. The largest misconception is that the city will lose its local control or authority. The city council still maintains full control of law enforcement services and contracts from the sheriff, just as it would be for their municipal police department was in existence. Remember, the police chief is elected. He answers to the people. The sheriff is elected. I answer to the people first. Same as him. He's not an appointed police chief who answers directly to the commission. So to say that would change, it's not changing. There's often fear that once under contract, the resources will be reallocated elsewhere within the sheriff's office. However, in this case with the sheriff's office, there will be officers dedicated exclusively to the city's jurisdiction. And often, as in this case, the sheriff is seen as attempting to take over the police department. What most do not understand, I want to clarify this. What most do not understand is that the sheriff's jurisdiction, law enforcement authority, and service population does not change with or without a contract for exclusive services. As in this case, it was the city of Starke that approached the sheriff's office and requested a proposal, and I had my staff put it together. And in summary, we are not outsiders. We work here. Most deputies live here, and we would be proud to serve the city of Starke. By combining resources with the sheriff's office, law enforcement services for citizens of Starke will be significantly enhanced. SPD officers, when combined with the sheriff's office, will enjoy higher pay, increased benefits, and an opportunity for advancement. The city of Starke can save approximately $1,500,000 annually. Any questions?
We're going to, again, do the same thing we did with the fire. We're going to have people that fill out a card to address. I have Jennifer Roden.
How are y'all doing?
Good.
I'm doing well there. Thanks to the police department, I'm going to say the sheriff's department, the fire department. I was the young lady that was shot at the Circle K on December 8th. Bullet wounds in the chest right here and on my back. I got my right one. God healed me tremendously. I'll tell you that these men and women, don't take them for money. If anything, I don't know how the road construction goes, but stop building so much maybe. Or maybe that would save. But I don't see welcoming new citizens, people out of town with new roads with open arms and then shoving us like the officers that don't have
you know, like, we're just getting shoved off the back roads. Our crime rate will go up if, we let go. I don't even hear our fines, really, they saved me, they're like, they rendered aid to me while in Officer Malley with the sheriff's office. It was wonderful to them all. And I believe that it should pay the same, you know?
Miss, Linda Russ.
She's coming. Okay. I feel like the police, right? My name is Linda, manager at Pine Forest. I feel like they're a great asset to us because they help us. They're there within about 15 to 10 minutes. They're always there. They know a lot of the tenants there. Also, they can kind of get them calmed down. It would be a big loss for us if we lose their help because they're out there at nighttime when I'm not there. They're constantly out there. They're across the road. They're inside on the back. They're constantly there trying to help. And they can de-escalate the situation without them taking them to jail. Half of the time, I know they've been out there and nothing happens. They're doing things. They just try to keep us at the peace. You know, they keep the peace most of the time. We don't have any problems. That's what I wanted to know, that it would be a great loss if we take them over there.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I'm sorry, I want to proceed, but I got, Dwayne,
Yes, sir.
you're speaking on the police, right?
No, sir, I'd like to speak a little bit about both, because I thought the understanding was that if we want to talk about both, we'll do it at the end after both presentations. That's the reason I didn't come up during the fire presentation. I wanted to then, but if it's not allowable, I'll accept that answer.
Dwayne, since you already voted on fire,
Well, I just wanted to give a historical perspective on a few things if I could, just to, so folks can understand a few things about where we're at today. I went to work at the City of Starke Fire Department in 1976 and I retired in 2006. I stayed out about a year and then went back to work, worked about another 14 years. You know, when I look around the room, both inside, outside, the commission as a whole, I remember when Jimmy came on board. Scott worked with your daddy very closely over the years. He led me in a lot of good directions. I mean, I've known all of you for a long time. There are a lot of young people in this room in uniform that I don't know. However, there's a lot of folks in this room that are either retired, or still currently working. As far as the fire department goes, there's still 3 folks there. I hired Gary Wise, okay, your current chief. There's 2 more ranking officers I hired. Going back to whenever I was hired, I'd just like to give you some progress on where we're at today. When I was hired at the City of Starke Fire Department, we had 2 people on the shift. We were not in any way in cooperation with Bradford County. If we got to the city limit and we could actually see something burning, we weren't allowed to cross city limit sign to go and take care of it. Well, as things progressed, Cliff Chapman, who's the director of EMS, I became fire chief, and it was evident everything in the county was volunteer. But it was evident we needed to pool resources and work together. So Cliff and I, we talked a lot. We started working on commissioners, and we were able to get some commissioners to get on board and let us change some things, and where we're at today because of that progression. Now I'll close because I know you want me to get the law enforcement.
You got 23 seconds.
23 seconds. Okay. We need everybody in uniform because I've got an old saying, everything's okay till it's not okay. When it's not okay and everybody in civilian uniforms or clothing are going one way, these folks out here are taking it for you. Doesn't matter if it's man-made, natural, what it may be. Okay, one thing, on September 11th, one statistic, 2,753 people died in the Trade Center, 343 were firefighters, 23 law enforcement.
Thank you.
Support them, guys.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, Sarah, what's going on? Sarah? Sarah Warren? She's
Coming.
I want to make sure that everybody in the back can hear me clearly, because this has been an issue. Right. My name is Sarah Warren. Many of you may not know me, and many of you know me as Colonel Barry Warren's daughter. I lived in Starke almost my whole life. I lived in Jacksonville for almost 3 years a couple years back. However, Starke has always been my home because that's exactly what it is. Starke is a home-style, rural, comforting place for everyone who visits. I moved back to Starke when I had my son. Why, you may be wondering? Because compared to any other city, Starke is the safest place I could think of to raise my child. Thanks to not only our population being small, but also the law enforcement agencies we have. I personally have grown up as my father's sidekick. Jeff Johnson mentioned in his presentation those 35,576 calls from 2021 to 2022 didn't include all their activity. So let me discuss some of their active involvement that I've seen. I've been raised in nonprofits such as Kiwanis Key Club, the Bradford Education Foundation, communities and schools, and most important to me, Shop with a Cop. All of my experience, as well as the benefits provided to the city which I've experienced, come from the work of not only my father, but also the other officers at the SPD, who have volunteered their time to help the community. Speaking of Shop with a Cop, I must show gratitude to the Starke Police Department for always showing up in numbers and participating fully, not just for a photo op. Thanks to Chief Jeff Johnson, who has allowed my father the time on and off duty, because this is a police and community event, to organize and operate. He's shown a tremendous support over almost 20 years for just that one event that benefits hundreds of children per year in our city. I don't say that to scare people, because I personally will ensure that this event won't go anywhere, whether y'all's vote changes things or not. However, this is just one major impact the SPD has managed to make on our town without the help of some budget that's now being used to provide our city employees with raises. Again, nothing to you or your vote. I hear the Sheriff's Office offering full service, but one experience I can recall is my father, myself, and additional officers having to use my father's personal vehicle to evacuate an apartment complex during Hurricane Irma, because the Sheriff's Office didn't have the vehicles to do so despite their larger budget. Additionally, I heard one of you say that it's not about the money earlier. I couldn't agree more. However, the vote you are trying to hold is about nothing but the budget according to you, aka the money. So I ask that you take not only my account, but every other citizen's account of safety, experience, and trust into consideration before showing your opinion, which in your own words does not matter. Overall, I think I speak on behalf of everyone who showed up tonight when I say the votes being held tonight have no right being in the hands of commissioners. Something of this magnitude should be left for the people to decide. We are the ones impacted by what you do. Thank you.
Terry Harris.
I'm Terry Harris, and I've been Bradford County resident for 2 years now, and I came from Nassau County, and they only had one fire department, or one police department, and so they were dispersed over the whole county. When I came here, and y'all had two police officers, two police things. It was just amazing. And I've been here 2 years now, and I've seen the traffic has gotten even more. So with the more people coming into the county, y'all are saying there's not that many people, I think, not coming in the county, but there's people coming in both roads into the county. Now we're going to need more police officers. How are you going to keep, and one police officer, I just don't understand that, keep
them enough money. We don't pay them enough money to do what
Amen.
they do.
Amen.
Them or the budget. They don't get paid enough to do what they do. And I thank all of y'all for what you do for us and everybody else. Thank you.
Ms. Young.
Once again, my name is Judith Young. Spoke about the fire department, and now I want to talk about these guys. Starke is growing at an exponential rate. There's no denying. There were people in here earlier talking about new developments within the city and the county. I've been sitting in these meetings for months. I've been hearing all of it. Nobody else is seeing it because the minutes haven't been posted. You want to take boots off the ground. And what I've learned from watching the news lately is any city right now that's taking boots off the ground, that's taking law enforcement away from the people, nothing good has ever happened there. Homelessness in this city, in this county, is on the rise. Drugs are pouring in left and right, and you want to put these guys out of a job. Now, I've heard there's not going to be no diminishing services and everything else. Well, I have friends that live in the county that are served by the sheriff's office, and yeah, they get there. They eventually get there, and that's what I hear from them. In my experience, every time I make a call to SPD, I have an officer there in minutes. We're going to take and let go of how many officers a shift and replace them with how many deputies are you proposing to put in the city?
I'll answer those questions in just a
All
minute.
right. Well, that's something to everybody to think about. How many deputies are going to be in the city when they take all the police officers out of it? That's something to think about. We have how many people, how many thousands of people that live in this city right now? You're building housing developments and apartment complexes. We're having events within this city that are going to draw bigger and bigger crowds here because we're trying to put Starke on the map. But all we're going to end up being is the citizens here are going to be targets. That's it. People are going to move where they can get away with the crime. That's going to bring nothing but bad news to Starke. The fact that we're going to have a lack of law enforcement here. And that's what it will end up being. Because we're not going to have the same. It's not going to be the same standard of service. Because we're going to have less law enforcement here. It does not make any sense. I hear the budget, the budget, the budget. I know for a fact that Starke PD has bent over backwards to make your budget, to keep you happy. None of these men and women have complained about it. They still show up every single day and they do their job. And what's discouraging, I change oil for a living. I change oil for a living and I make pennies less than what these starting officers do. But it doesn't affect them. They love what they do. They don't get into law enforcement for the money. They do it because they want to do something for community. And that's what these guys are doing. You're putting them out of a job. You're putting people's lives at risk. You're bringing crime to this area with this proposal.
Sharice Boyd, Ms. Boyd. Ms. Boyd.
Hello, Sharice Boyd. My address is protected. I just want to say, so this is the agenda thing. Apparently it's been empty since April, and everybody's like, oh, let's discuss this. So when I spoke earlier, so you know, I spoke quickly because I didn't know about this meeting until yesterday, so I didn't really have anything planned, obviously. But I do want to address a few things. One, Starke is a small city. It's a great community. And if we're willing to invest in our community, we invest in our people. One of the issues you're saying is money. Of course, there are things like increased revenue and things like that. Do some rehab projects, start some small businesses. You can do that to bring in more money and make more money. But the easier thing is to put off something to someone else. The issue is, and I respect both the sheriff and the police department, I really do. I understand we have a constitutional sheriff. So what he's basically saying is that he doesn't really need your permission or authority to do the work, because if the police department decides to fall in tomorrow, it's his obligation to provide that service. What you're looking at is trying to contract him and pay money for something, when the 16 officers that we have now, if you were to put a little more money into this pocket versus going out and putting it into someone else's hands of responsibility, the budget would cover itself. Another thing I want to say is that the city approached the county. Think about that. So what is it that you all are seeing that we're not seeing that's not public record? Because we're not able to digest the same understanding that you're having. Another couple of things is, so you don't know, I do have a master's in emergency disaster management, and I can tell you that multiple agencies is actually a better thing. If you put everything under one, then you have the problem of control. If you leave it as a city and a county, then there's a lot more equability and self-control. We do not want to become one of the actually many places that are trying to do that, where you give up your rights as a city. You think you'll have them, but you really won't. Because when the sheriff says that it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. Also, the last few things I want to tell you is, if you're deciding to do this, as the chief brought up, you have to talk about the changes in your charter. Those changes have to be voted on. Do you think you're going to get the support from the voters when you have this many people showing up for 16 jobs? And the last thing is, I also have a master's in grant writing. You can write grants and get a lot of this money put in. I live in Volusia County. Sheriff Chitwood is my sheriff, so if you know him, you know. And he did a lot of work as a sheriff, but you can do the same thing in the city and get those kind of grants for equipment, etc. I don't want us to become lazy in opposition and find the easy way out. Sometimes working harder will give you a better benefit in the long run if you're willing to stick to it. This is a city, it's a small community, and I think it would be more appreciated to keep our local police. Thank you.
Mr. Hunter, Bruce?
Ladies and gentlemen, how y'all doing? Me and my wife just became taxpayers of Bradford County this year. At the end of the year, we'll be paying taxes for the county of Bradford. I came here to support family, friends, and acquaintances on both sides. Sheriff's Department as well as the Police Department. I actually feel less because I didn't get a chance to speak for the Fire Department. Just don't know anybody who works for them. But God, after listening to them talk, I think that was amazing. Come to the Sheriff's Department and the Police Department. Do not merge. Alright? Your county's growing. Your city's growing. There is no such thing as a major city or a growing city that only has a Sheriff's Department. You have to have a city. Alright? GPD in Gainesville is so big, I had to get a university. Police Department for the university. Alright? You're growing. You may not want to, but you put in a bypass. It's coming. Businesses are going to want to be here. They're going to want, there's money to be made. There's tax revenue to be had. It's coming. You just, like lady just said, you just approved for a brand new apartment complex, right? Y'all approving a lot of stuff. There's money coming. You give one man the power, someone in here is going to lose some power. You have two opportunities here to have a chief and a sheriff, both of which I'm glad to have. It's a county, it's a great county, it's a great town. All right? By next year, hopefully, me and my wife will be living in this area. My grandchildren live in this area. Okay? I've been a member of law enforcement for almost 20 years now. Just not in this county. Okay? Get rid of one police department in lieu of only one sheriff's department. Or vice versa. Get rid of your sheriff's department in lieu of one police department. Become less. You will. Guarantee you. Become less. Alright? Jacksonville, Sheriff's Department, Police Department. Do not get rid of an agency. Don't do it. Alright? Do not get rid of an agency that has potential for growth. Both agencies are wonderful. Both agencies work together. Both agencies have outstanding employees. Outstanding men and women that serve this community in this county. Do not become less than. Don't do it. Drugs run rampant in any community. Crime runs rampant in any community that continues to grow. You cannot barrier off your highway. This county will grow. Y'all have given it that potential with that bypass. Congratulations. You have opened the gate. You cannot close that gate. Not with all the dynamite in the state of Florida. Welcome to the modern world. Starke is no longer a horse and buggy town. One man don't run this show no more, folks. All right? It ain't gonna be long. You'll be voted out if you do. Break. Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break. Thank you.
A phone has been left in the ladies' bathroom, and I've got it.
I wasn't in there.
I didn't go in there.
He did, I think.
He did, she did.
He did. I'm not a he.
She.
You're not sure what bathroom you went in.
No, I'm just confused from last week.
You're still confused. I'm not confused.
You're a good fight. Last week confused me too. Yeah, it come right. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I reckon they left. Okay. Okay. And I'll hurry. Thank you, bud. Bye. One time, and then this. Yep.
So they're giving them free vehicles.
And having to pay for retirement, and having to pay my salary, and having to pay my benefits. It ain't just $340,000. That's up to about $900. That's what you got in the bank. Yeah, that's what I got in the bank. Yeah. You were thinking
Oh my.
Anyone have any Tylenol? We need two. Give me
1 deputy per shift for a quarter of the cost. And then if the utility goes in.
What's that?
They will get you back up. They don't make TMZ with that. They don't TMZ. I know. All right, call everybody back. I got Mr. Schubert back. Lynn David Schubert. Y'all see him out there?
He was there.
If he comes in, we go back to him. I got his card up here. If he comes in, all right, he may be in the bathroom. Sarah Lighty? Pronounce that again? Sarah? No, we got you down here for police and fire.
Okay, I can read them.
Sorry.
Part of it will be the same.
It's on the police.
Yes. So some of this already been said, the county's 300 square miles currently has 3 or 4 deputies on the road at a time. Puts each deputy responsible for an area about the size of Tallahassee. Kind of big. In a true emergency, especially one of life or death, population is not a consequence. Rather, it is the response time that in many cases dictates the situation's outcome. The city currently services approximately 8 square miles. With approximately 3 officers a shift, it's roughly 97 fewer square miles per officer assigned. The thought that the county absorbing the city fire and police services and operating those services for less than what the city does now would in turn provide every citizen with better service is flawed thinking. To provide the caliber service and offer the citizens the combined years of service experience they currently receive would cost essentially the same unless the county intends on not fully staffing shifts or using less experienced individuals on these shifts. Police, fire, and rescue are not simple services. While it's true fire departments do not generate any revenue, they are essential, and response time with proper personnel for fire and police services is of paramount importance. Police departments and fire departments are not businesses. They're critical infrastructure, and public entities were never intended to run like a business and will always fail when treated as such. In just the same way businesses could not be competitive if they were managed like government entities.
Thank you. Okay, probably butcher it up again. John, Ventura? Ventura. Okay. Thank you. There's a lot of emotion in this room. And sometimes like you get, and I apologize. I apologize for that. Well, I can tell you, like I said, we moved here 7 years ago. Moved into a little town. We felt secure and safe, both for our firemen and our police officers. Imagine what it would be like if all of a sudden you had trouble and you went to pick up the phone and they weren't there. Or the sheriff can't get there fast enough. That's my big fear. Like I said, I've watched both of these wonderful groups of men work hand in hand to help out people in my neighborhood, to which a lot of us were getting older. We need the support. And like I said to some of the police officers in the lobby, there's no greater feeling than having your daughter come out and say, you know, Dad, I couldn't sleep last night. I looked out the window, and there was the Starke police officer riding through our area with his normal night patrol. That'd be scary if they weren't there. Because you never know nowadays what's happening. Things are changing so rapidly in this country. It's scary. So I just want to say, we need each and every one of these guys. Both of them. We really do. And I thank you for your time. Thank you. Ms. Young? You already spoke, right? Yeah, okay. I'm sorry, you got to put it back in the file. Sorry about that. Okay, did David Schubert, is he still out? Did y'all find him? Is he out there? Gone? Okay. Okay. All right. Would we want to have questions, but Chief Johnson or Sheriff, would y'all like to respond to any of those type questions or comments that were made?
I think most of them are answered in the presentation that were there. If y'all have any questions, I'm more willing. Any residents, they see me out there, can ask. We deal with it every day. And they should talk about response times, so that's an old issue in regards to it. We prioritize calls by the type of call that comes in. So those are different on priority type calls and what the call is received in comm center. That's the way it goes. That's the reason the city, you wouldn't never know the difference because their time on the call, they got a deputy respond. It's just the way it is. Nature of the beast, that wouldn't change. You still have that person assigned to the city or persons assigned to the city. There would always be a couple of deputies within the city. It's not an issue with us and how we deploy our resources. I don't wanna get into that, we don't need anybody listening to how we do that, but, that's prioritizing the calls, and some of them know that through dispatch, what a priority call and what isn't. It's just how you wanna display it, like using numbers, you know, using anyway, that's the reason tonight, you know, give you basic math.
Okay. I don't know if we have a question for Sheriff Talk, we've got to say anything before we start asking questions, or?
Yeah, I just, like I said, the only dispute that me and Gordon's got is, I think it's, I can't fathom that level of service with that amount of money based on what I know in my 15 years at Starke Police Department, 34 years total. I just, with what I do, with my CID, with my investigation, with my narcotics and stuff like that, it'd be tough to roll over with that amount. I just don't believe it. Because even with that amount, you still have to pay my salary, the night policeman, the maintenance, the insurance, the retirement. I just got it. That's why y'all don't have a copy of that. But I just got it from Ryan Cohen. The fire department got the same thing. It was only released to Clay because the chairman of both retirements only gave authority to give it to Clay. Drew, did you get a copy? But that's why it was limited the number of copies, and it just come out this morning. But now I can read this whole thing, which I'm not going to, but I'm telling you, it's expensive to get rid of retirement system. Very expensive. Because if you terminate the program, if you don't close the program, terminate the program. Two different things. Close the program, when nobody enters into the program, you just keep funding that fund. You're wanting to terminate the fund, at which time everybody becomes eligible for the unrefundable money. Everybody becomes eligible. And that's going to get real expensive, and I'm going to check with Ron first before I do this, and I'm going to make sure I mention to Clay before I release this, because he is an attorney for the retirement fund, not the city. Clay.
Just for the record, this is a public record. If anybody on the commission or in the public asked me, I would provide a copy of it. I didn't realize you didn't get it. I got it just before I was walking in.
I just got it too. I did too.
I will make sure that we scan it, and I'll email it to everybody and provide a copy to the clerk's office if anybody wants a hard copy.
And Ron knew once the meeting become public, in Florida it becomes public. But he wanted to release it to only the two agencies at the time, and then you have been for the city. That's it. So unless you have any questions, I'm sorry.
We're gonna come up.
Okay.
I'm just gonna get y'all, I just want y'all to kind of respond, at this time to some things were said, and we're gonna ask some questions here. You wanna make another comment? Sure. Okay. At this point, we'll, open it up for questions. Dan, you got any questions?
Well, mine's not really a question, and they're talking about response time, and I know, most people should know how important it is, because one reason, a big example would be the overpass. Go get people to the hospital quicker, and that was a big problem in the past. So, if you want to spend $20-something million to get somebody to the hospital quicker, then response time is priority. And I think our departments do a great job, both departments, and that's a big issue. I have nothing against the sheriff's office, they do great work, but I like the idea of having two separate entities because you get more done, and it's more, and they also work good as partners because they've known each other so long and work together. And I think it'd be doing them justice to break our city apart, and because I think that when you start doing that, you lose part of your how you run a business, how smooth it is, because you're breaking apart and not having to work together before. And I think it just needs to stay like it is, because I'm concerned that we're going to, it don't seem like much, but 5 minutes can make a difference in somebody's life, or showing up at a residence when, so let's say, there's abuse being handled and nobody gets there in time. So these things are important, and I think it's good to have two different agencies.
You want me to follow that? Okay, so anyway, I'm sorry, I digress. Thank you, Chair, for an excellent presentation, very informative. But I really feel that since we have an elected, chief, and our charter states that, and that requires us to have that, I really think that we need to, I want to support the proposal of the chief that we do a referendum on the next election cycle and let the citizens decide what they want us to do with the chief, and then we can move forward based on what our citizens want us to do with the police department. Because unlike the fire department, we have an elected position that the only authority we have over him is his budget. And he's responsible to the people, as we are. So I think that they really should be the ones that make that decision. I have my own ideas of where we need to go, but as far as the big picture that we're facing tonight, the referendum, I think, is the right way to go. It's fair to the police department, and it's fair to the citizens, and to the sheriff as well.
So, Sheriff, your, what it came in at was $345,000. Would that be that number every year, or it's on a, I think you said
It's based on the 1.5 mils. It could be less next year, could be more the following year. As it grows, you build your infrastructure, businesses come. I'm smart enough man to know that what's happened over the past 5 years, to which direction it's going to head. I didn't want the people, I've done this before the commission. When they voted 3-2 1 week to put it on the ballot, flip-flop the next 2 week meeting, it changed, it's wishy-washy. And I'm saying that's not fair to these men and women.
It stays in proportion.
You know what I'm saying? It stays in motion, and all of a sudden they're going, okay, people vote, do I have a job? So they're bailing on the chief, which isn't fair to him, his staff, the residents of the city of Starke. That's the reason I say a decision is needed, because you leave that in limbo, these people have families. Right now, we have about 5 vacant positions within the sheriff's office. We've been sitting on some in regards to it, and that's been holding. You don't, tomorrow we start filling. We've got applications. So those are things that we look at in many when you wait out. Whereas now, through attrition, what we need from the police department, you're talking 9, maybe 10 positions we can fill by October, and some might not go. Some may not pass it back. I don't know. You got the chief, which is an issue I don't have to worry about. That lessens the night, you know. He's got some slots he's got open, so there's less people I don't have to hire. I'm just talking about the timing and fairness to the men and women that do the job each and every day. We have the vacancies there. I don't know what happens to everybody. Maybe pull steps and look, we're not there. So that's all I was looking at in that. I have no problem with the people. I can tell you, me and the chief have had those conversations many, many times. However, you leave him in limbo between now and then. We've already got some of the men and women applying for a job. So what do? And it looks like I'm still the men and women from the police department. They're qualified, I guarantee I'm gonna hire them. So what does that do to the chief? I just don't want that limbo left out. I think in fairness, you make a decision. The people elected you. I have no problem putting it on the ballot. But in the meantime, what happens? These people say, I can't wait till what might or might not occur. They're looking out for stability of them and their family. The longevity. Is my pension going to be fine? I give you the state law on the pension. I talked to the Division of Management Services. I'm sure Clay will be doing that. There's a lot of things that can be done there, and how that's paid out. And that's up to the board. We created that board when I was chief. I get it. And that comes down to what the board decides and what y'all approve. Because nothing in the law says you gotta have a pension. One of those that are vested in it. So there's a lot of things there. That's all I'm saying in time-wise, time frame, and moving forward. And I just think in fairness to them, if you make that decision, the sooner the better, and rip the band-aid off. And if you don't, we're gonna be back here next meeting. Somebody else is gonna bring a friend. Somebody's gonna bring a friend. And it gets to the same stuff we listened to tonight, which most of that was covered in the presentation before it was ever asked.
Okay. So we're at $345,000 on your part. What's the proposed budget for this year, sir?
On May the 16th was 1.596.
1.596, so a difference of over $1.2 million difference that the sheriff's office could do it for. So in that, with that $1.2 million difference, we're talking about service.
maintaining the same level of service or better service.
Yes, the
With a
infrastructure's there.
$1.2 million difference.
Absolutely.
And that's what you're proposing, that we
Just the way we,
maintain the
yeah,
same
just the way we
service.
deploy our resources, the infrastructure's there. It's just one of those things that if you average the calls per day, intake, that's an average of 1.2, without adding an officer for the city or 2 officers for the city. Without doing that, it's an additional 1.2 calls a day per day, on average.
Mr. Mayor, I wanted to go back and rebut the sheriff. I want to rebut the sheriff. Like I said, I don't look at it as, any of the men and women, in the police department will be in limbo, because they have their jobs. Their jobs will not be, in jeopardy unless something happens with the chief.
Right.
I'm looking at it as, this is a decision that the people need to make, so that we will know what we need to do, because they elected him. These people work for him, and as long as he's there, they'll work for him. I disagree with the limbo categorization.
Well, if the vote comes in and they don't have a job, then they're left at the last minute on a voting day.
But there will be time for that, but right now, no one is in limbo of losing their job.
Oh, no, I'm talking about in the limbo, them waiting up till next March.
March 19th.
March 19th, between now and March 19th, they go, which way is that vote gonna go? I can tell you if I was wearing that blue uniform, what I'd be thinking. And I've dealt with it before, because that was an issue before. So that's all I was saying in time frame. It doesn't, they're secure in their job right now. I don't know where the cuts are taken, how many officers you cut yourself back in the budget with the 1.5. All I'm saying is that if they're looking
They're
at
not
that,
in limbo, let's just agree that limbo is not a good term.
they're left not knowing.
Okay, there you go.
Suspense.
I'll take that, but limbo, I won't.
Yeah.
I'm done.
In the numbers that you gave Andy about how much you can do for, are you including all the retirement and all that the chief brought up about transferring, the cost and all that? How is he gonna still?
Oh, absolutely. Boss man, I wouldn't come to you unprepared. Talked to you this morning. I gave you the statute in front of you. Termination of a plan and distribution of fund. It's up.
I read that.
Yeah, it's up to them.
But I didn't.
How they wanna go, it has to be approved by the board. There's several ways of doing that, to disperse the fund or get out of it. That's under Division of Management. You can contact them. They have lawyers, and there's the actual state law in black and white. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I can read, in regards to it. So, that's, I'll let y'all copy of that.
You finished, Andy?
Yeah, I'm done. That's all I'm gonna do.
I agree completely with Commissioner Mortimer about putting the chiefs up on the next election, but I don't think it's in our best interest to wait and transfer the service over to the sheriff's office till then. I think the sheriff could do it. I couldn't sit here and say that there would be less service and vote for something like that. So I believe in my heart that we can pull this off together. The officers with the city have a better opportunity with you, with a better pay, with your, I just believe that it is the right way to go. I just can't see us waiting another year to pull the trigger and do this. So I feel that you gave a great presentation and I like it. So I appreciate it, Sheriff.
Chief Johnson, what you said about the termination or, what was the other word?
Closed.
Closed, okay.
If you close the plan, it means you still have people in the plan. If you terminate the plan, then that's when you have to do all the buy.
Well, understand that if we don't do anything, we still contribute to that, so.
But it would
It's not-
be
it's not like-
substantially more.
Well, if you multiply that out over the years, that's substantial. But I've been on the pension board for 10 years, depending on the return, that this city had to put a bunch of money forward, and that's happening to people. So the retirement thing, I think, will take care of itself one way or the other. A lot of that depends on the rate of return that the pension fund gets. You're gonna have to do that no matter what, because I've been there going back an expense that we already have. Numbers are the numbers. Service. Going back to you went over in your presentation, you feel, I mean, yeah, I'm kicking a dead horse, but you've been chief of police of this city, and you've been sheriff of
Good
this
job
county.
I had with City too.
And you've been sheriff of this county, and you've been
18
chief
years.
of police. Putting you on the spot. You're telling us that you feel like you can do service from a service standpoint. And before you answer, let me ask you this. And some of this, like, if you look at the whole department, and maybe you can answer this. You have investigators, is that correct?
Yes.
You have, besides the ones that you put patrolling in the town, in the car, so to speak, riding up down the road, as the gentleman said, what do you have over, and you put 2 all the time in the city, is that correct? Or I have that wrong?
Right.
So 2 all
3
the
on the
time.
swing.
3 on a swing and earn somebody's in town or something.
Right.
So 2. Okay. Putting 2 officers in this city and not doing an investigation work. Because where does the responsibility of the investigation work and all your other employees fall? Meaning this, I know the sheriff is responsible for law enforcement in this county, which includes the city of Starke.
Right.
If your department was down to doing the patrolling and not doing all that other stuff that you said, because that's where you got, how many employees you got in your, I had it in my head, I can't remember.
16.
You have 16 total. That includes the administration, that includes the, investigation.
That's administration,
Everything.
investigations, and patrol.
Okay. Is getting down to, I'll just use what brass tacks is down to the patrolman side. And Sheriff, I'm putting you on the spot for this. If the city did something like that, would the responsibility that he does not do, and I'm speaking investigation and stuff like that, would that fall on you?
Yes, sir.
So if your department was cut down to 2 patrolmen out there, running around, I don't think you're gonna need all the, could be wrong, let's look at the administrative side too.
Right.
Okay. What I'm hearing from you, that it could be cut down considerably, and the sheriff's office would have to take that over.
That's by law. City residents are county residents, and I'm obligated by law.
If we transferred all investigations over. Once we respond, we'd be like JSO's road guys. We call them tape pullers. When they show up on the scene, if it's anything besides a basic shoplifting or something like that, they pull a roll of tape out of the back of their car and they wrap it. And then you see all the other guys come in.
So going back to those pages.
If I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm not sure I explained it right, but I think you understand.
Okay.
So I'm going through all these calls, priority 1, 2, and 3, and all of that. So the patrolmen do most of these?
All of them.
So the 2 patrolmen do most of this?
They are well, like the sheriff said, the colonel or the major or somebody like that may call a call, and if the dispatcher hears the sheriff, the dispatcher may think they're gonna get in trouble and they don't put the sheriff down, they put the deputy that comes in. You understand, or the chief. If I call, hey guys, there's loud trucks up at Winn-Dixie, that's what I'm talking about. The street guys,
Right, the street guys do most all
probably
of these.
99% of those. They're the first ones on the scene.
Well, help me understand that if you put 2 guys out there, and the sheriff puts 2 guys out there, what am I missing?
Because we know the city.
So the 2 guys you put
It's all
there-
about the level of service.
I get that.
I'm trying my best to
And
explain
that's why I'm
it.
trying to drill down on this. If you put, and correct me, I don't know the answer
Okay.
to this. He's gonna put roughly roughly 2 people? Is that
That's the way it works, the way it overworks, the way we do our resources, overlap our resources that we have. You're always gonna have at least 2 in the city. That's just by the way nature we redeploy our
Now, is that 2
resources.
additional? I saw.
No, you're still gonna keep about the same. Let me give you an example. Went and spent time up in Baker County, Sheriff Scotty Liddy. 600 square miles. Think about all the forest, highway, interstate. There's 7,500, Google 7,500 population in the city limits of McLean. They guarantee 1 deputy inside the city. 1, that's what they guarantee. That's the sheriff, how does that work? We don't miss a beat. I mean, if we deploy the 1 additional from the city, at all times, we're gonna have the same amount of resources up in Baker County next. They're actually answering more calls. So you go figure, and I can assure you.
Is Baker County, do you feel, and I'll ask the chief the same thing, but his opinion may differ from yours. All these calls, the 11th priority 1, 2, and 3, the theft, stolen vehicles, disturbance, burglary, I mean, all of them, a whole bunch of them. That is going to be covered, this 42,000.
Yes, sir.
By the people, your people inside. Because you got
In addition to those, correct.
Chief, help me out. If he puts 2 people on the streets, and you put 2 people on the street, you cover it with 2 people. He covers it with 2 people. Where's the line? Where am
I can use Hampton as an example. Hampton lost her marshal, I think he was called a marshal. Well, they got tired of not seeing, the mayor and them told me they got tired of not seeing deputies, so they pay the sheriff's office now for certain hours they guarantee them to be inside of Hampton. And I'm scared that's what's gonna happen because we're growing so fast right now. They want protection. You won't see that much protection if we reduce our forces. And that's exactly what we're doing.
I'm just, again, trying to get clarity. You're saying that you got 2 people doing all this now. So what are we reducing as far as these? Not investigation, not all that. You said 99% of this stuff is done by those guys in the car running around. So help, what am I missing?
All of the guys working on the street, investigations, administrations, and stuff like that are justifying the 35,000 calls. Not justifying, but you understand what I'm seeing. The calls. I mean, you've never, and not just to hurt your feelings or anything, you've never been in law enforcement and had to work 24 hours, 7 days a week. And God forbid something happen again like it happened in Lake Butler. Earl Gordon, everybody he had that had a T-shirt on had to go to Lake Butler.
And we're gonna have situations.
You know, and
I mean, that comes up when we need 4 departments.
and we hate to say that situations like that, I mean, we've got real crime coming to the city. Real crime coming to the city. It's spilling out of Jacksonville, it's spilling out of Gainesville, it's spilling out of the west of us.
So, I'm being very redundant. The 2 people you leave there, it's handled. Yes, it may grow, and we may have to put on another, and he's gonna have to put on another.
At times, yes, 2 people can handle it.
Yeah, I mean, at times you need 5.
But during the day, we've got administration and other people to handle calls and stuff like that. I mean, that's all I can explain to you is, yeah, we have 2 people working calls. 3 most of the time. There's 3, as long as nobody calls in sick, there's 3. There's 3 people working calls inside the city. Something happens, they make a phone call. There's me, Barry, John. We're there within minutes. So I don't know how you want me to explain where.
I'm just trying to match your numbers with his.
Right. You can't.
You can't.
There's no way in the world that $345,000 is going to service us like I'm doing you for 1.596. Absolutely impossible.
But you just told me you have 2 people doing 99%
Right.
of the calls.
2 to 3 people on every
2
shift.
to 3.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that is your budget had those 2 people, and maybe 1 more, an administrator and a chief. two already do 99% of the call.
Right.
Let's say your budget added one more than he said.
If you choose to give the police department away, you'll see what I'm saying come true.
Okay.
If you don't give the police department away, we can work out the budget, go to the referendum, do whatever we have to do. But I'm telling you, if you do this and you give it to the sheriff, because the sheriff was asked to propose this is not sheriff was put on the line. It is going to show. It is going to show a lack of service inside the city.
And I don't want that to happen.
I understand.
I don't want that to happen. And that's why I'm going, hold on a minute. That's why I am saying, I'm trying to match, not budget, I'm just trying to match numbers of patrolmen that the sheriff is doing, and that if you do it. And you're telling me to, he's telling me to, let's throw another one in on you.
Here's
say three, you do three.
Yeah, here's.
Okay, so why is he at 400 and you're at $1 million?
Yeah, but you're not doing apples and apples yet if you really think about it. You take his calls in the county, add them to the 35,000. Add the 35,000.
With the extra employees that he's gonna.
Right, he's gonna put 2 people in here. I understand that. He's gonna put 2 people in here. You're almost doubling his call load. Double the investigations, double the narcotics.
And you're gonna have, sheriff, are you gonna have the manpower? What the chief just said.
I
I'm
will-
not trying to.
no, no.
I'm not trying to pitch y'all against it, but we're not in law enforcement. You're right.
Right.
And I'm trying to make understand.
And I'm trying to explain it to you.
I have to vote on law enforcement and the fire, and I just have to go by what people say.
I've been doing this 34 years, so I know that
Well-
I'm trying to draw you a picture
Well, the
where you
picture
can
is
see
this,
it.
and just make it simple. He says 2, you says 2. You saying it needs more than 2? What's your budget at 3.5? Don't do 2. You already have 2. Go to 3. What's your budget? And then put administrative in there. So I'm just saying, I'm trying to, you go a little more than his numbers, and more than you have now. It's hard for me to come up with, when you're at, $1.5 million, and let's say a police officer costs $100,000. I don't think it's that, but I'm just.
That's fireman.
Right. Let's say 100,000, okay? Let's say 80. If you add 160,000 to his, why wouldn't the numbers go up?
Well, 160,000 is only going to add my salary and the night police.
No, I'm not talking about your salary. I'm not talking about your salary. You're the chief. I'm saying, because I'm not counting you in the 2.
Oh, okay.
Okay? You're not
Right.
in the 2 in these numbers, so I'm not counting you in the 2 there. You stay chief. You're saying 2. You go to 3. Or 4. You go to 3. He's at 400, or I forget the numbers. 345. If you added 2 more officers, you'd be at 160. I say 80,000. I think that's high for officers.
Right.
Let's say, so you're at 345, 445. You get $500,000. That's what I'm trying to miss. I'm not in law enforcement.
Right,
So I'm just
right.
looking at the numbers. Let's add 2 more to him. You're saying that is not enough to handle the crime.
What do you mean by add 2 more to him?
Well, I'm just saying for argument purposes, and I'm sorry, I got to get this straight.
I'm trying to help you.
Yeah. Well,
if you don't,
I'm saying that if you go in there, and I know you got administration and stuff like that, but if you add 2 more officers than what Gordon says he could do it for, that's overkill what he said he's going to do.
Well, if you're going to put 3 per shift, that's 4 more officers.
That's for what?
4 more officers.
Okay.
We got 4 12-hour shifts.
So what is that? That's roughly. What's
60,000 a piece.
how much?
About 60,000 per.
Between 60 65 if you average it.
It's 240. If you add 1 more officer to the shift.
Are you're talking about not doing investigations, turning all investigations over to the sheriff.
Go ahead, I'll shut up.
I think what he's trying to say is, can you do that, do your service, what he's asking for this amount of money? That's what the mayor's asking.
Or even a little more.
Or even a little more. Get your budget down to $500,000. That's what they're trying to do.
I would just like to stay till March 19th. That's what I'm asking. I wanna leave it as is till March 19th. If they vote the chief out, I'll do the turnover. Me and sheriff will sit down and we'll turn it over. If they vote to keep the chief, then we need to sit down and figure out what we're gonna do with our police department.
And that's fine, I won't get into the budget, here right now, budget.
Right.
But if you're the chief 2 years from now, and I'm sitting up here, at least this commissioner is gonna say, get your budget down.
Right.
Because we already know what it can be. So, I mean, this discussion about numbers and budget, is something that's gonna be ongoing, so.
Well, I'm gonna say the same thing the sheriff did. I mean, we were told, the 1st of May, end of April, when y'all had y'all's, whatever, the budget thing for the numbers to come out, and I was told, I looked at you like you had 3 heads, because $500,000 I thought was not possible. When you went back and dropped the $484,000, dropped some positions, made some adjustments, and done exactly what we were asked to do, and I felt that we were okay as the department at that point.
All right,
Okay?
let me go with Danny, he's been trying to talk.
Go ahead.
Well, one of the things is, you're talking about two guys, but it doesn't always work that way, there's things that change it. Sometimes they have access, sometimes they have to do construction, so you have to bring more deputies in, so it throws that whole theory about how much your salary is, because he has to adjust for all that, so that's something you can't really predict. So he really sometimes got more than 2 people because somebody gets pulled up, got like for the bridge and stuff like that, or events. So he has to pull more people, and so we're looking at saying only 2 guys, but he has other guys too that do the same thing and get pulled in multiple days. And another thing that concerns me is he asked the police chief to make his budget. He went as far as he could, made the budget. So that concerns me that now we're trying to nitpick him to death on the minor parts of his budget. But I understand that somebody's trying to get clarification, but I don't think this is the time to nitpick on one particular area. But we need, that's something we should have done when we made the budget. And had him to make the number. He made the number, cut his employees, and then make it. And I think that's, he did what he was asked to do, and now we're sitting up here trying to do away with his department, which I don't think is right. That's it.
But his budget was the 2.3, right, or 2.5, or 2.3?
It's actually, after grants, it was 2,
That's grants.
yeah, about 2.2
Right.
grants.
That year, but the previous 2 or 3 years, you were down to 1.5, 1.6, and that was a balloon year for some reason.
That was,
It got
that
all,
was,
so
that's
you're
how-
really not,
well, as I told Commissioner Redding, those numbers are not right.
exactly, so you said you took the $500,000 off, basically just put you back to where you were, and you're not losing anything. That's where I'm at is the issue, so I just want to make that clarification.
Can I talk?
You go.
Thank you.
I'll shut up.
Okay, so you may have answered this, but y'all have had such an in-depth conversation that I kind of probably got lost or just tuned you out, I'm not sure. But my question, Chief, answer this. If the sheriff did the investigations and the dispatch that city taxes pay for, can you run your department and have the same level of service with 2 officers? And do you know what that might cost?
No, I'll have to.
But do you think, can you do that?
I mean, I could look at it, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
The funding is, I mean, I can tell you what the funding would be for this, but, I have to decide, I reckon I have to decide where it's gonna be distributed and who it's gonna be, You see what I'm saying? I got 15 guys now. I got 15 people now that are employed, 3 of them as investigators. But the supervisor of those investigators also does other stuff.
Is the supervisor one of the 3 or is the supervisor?
Yes, he's one of the 3.
One of the 3, okay.
Lieutenant Keel.
Ms. Andrews was trying to say something.
Is there any way I can ask a question? I didn't know, I had not heard his proposal, I didn't know the numbers, I didn't understand, but if I could ask a question, I would really appreciate it. And if not,
We're opening it up to you, and I somebody else down for some activity. I apologize. You made a very profound statement. We're not in law enforcement, so we're sitting here trying to add these positions up, not just rank, but positions up.
Right.
So we're having to make a decision on these positions in service. And you're saying there's no way it can be the same. I got this sheriff sitting here saying it is the same.
You got a tough decision.
That's,
And that,
this man has sat where you sat, and now he's sitting there, he's saying he can, and, so, go ahead, Andy.
and Chief, that kinda goes back when we were having these initial discussions, why I was asking for your organizational chart that delineated everybody's position. You got about $500,000 in admin people in your budget. So even if we cut that, you're down to $1 million. We still have $650,000 difference in what's being proposed. Nothing on you. I mean, and we're talking about money and everything else that goes into the whole thing, because I've worn your uniform. Okay? And I've worn yours too, Big One, city and sheriff.
Don't be addressing
Okay.
anybody like that.
So, I know what goes into this from both sides, okay? And I respect the badge, and I respect every one of you, but we have to look at both sides, okay?
Sure.
I appreciate you.
Sure.
If we asked you to get your budget down further, would it be something you would be willing, do away with the investigation, do away with some of this administration? You know, we don't want, nobody, and I can't speak for, I know nobody up here wants service to go down. We're just trying to connect the dots. And,
I mean, I think the dots could be connected in a different way. You know, when you play that game, you can go in different directions. I think, cutting from fire and police only hurt a lot. I know they're on the general side, or what you call the general side, and they're the biggest draw on the general side. There's no doubt about it. The fire and police. Have we made some funds? Have we built some funds? Yes. It was the city council's, not sure who was on the board then, that stopped these fees that we were getting from these buildings, whatever you want to call that. Impact fee, thank you. I mean, it wasn't police departments and fire departments' decision to do that. It stopped a lot of the.
So there was a lot, and I wasn't here.
I know, I'm not sure who was
What
here.
I'm saying is
We've got to get
impact
revenue.
fees, the impact fees, you know, we don't have them, but they are negotiated when contractors come. There are a certain amount they pay. So they don't come into the city scot-free. I mean, there's things that are paid. And also, most of the, it goes into the paying of the service, the growing and everything. So impact fees will help, but then it also adds cost to us. I mean, you know, so that's, and it's hard to manage now what impact fee are going to be 5 years from now. We're supposed to spend money now.
And I do realize that we're put in this position because of decisions that were made back. And I told Commissioner Redding that I was not going to throw anybody under the bus, and I'm not. I'm not going to. But these decisions that we're having to make now are because of 10, 15 years ago.
I don't disagree.
You know, well, I understand that, but to come out, my police department, I can do anything you ask me to do. That's not a problem. I can reduce the budget, but it will cut the level of service. I've said it in my statement, I put it in my thing. If we drop below the number of people that I have employed, the level of service will drop. And in a year and a half, you'll come up to Punkin and you'll say, Punkin, you know, you're right. That's exactly what's going to happen.
Well, it's service, and I think it's happened in McLean. They came back and said, wait, sir, we want another officer in the town. We'll pay for it.
I mean,
well, if saying? I mean, as service starts going down, there's things we might could do as a city.
And I know you don't see it, but it's just not as simple as that.
Okay.
It's just not as simple as that.
Well,
It's just not as simple
And
as
it's not as
345
simple,
and 1.5.
it's not as simple with us, and I'll just speak about I can't speak. It's not as simple for us. We want the greatest fire department in the greatest. But we also have other parts of the city, and I'm not saying it's because of the fire and police, but we have infrastructure. A water main could break tomorrow, we gotta spend $250,000. I mean, we have, that I feel, again, my opinion, that the infrastructure, you say, well, we get up, go to work, go there, no problem, and we have, linemen, we have all this stuff, everybody's working, keeping the city going, and that's great. We got great employees all the way around. The thing is at what point how we come up with the money to fund the other part? We say we're cutting your fund, but we've been cutting the other part of the budgets for years. That's my opinion. So those cuts have been coming at the expense of these, they may not have got increased, because they should have got increased, we should have spent money. That's not your fault, it's not mine, it just happened. Times change, nobody has a crystal ball. But that's where I think, we're not coming at y'all as far as cutting, because we just want more money. The point is where do we get the money to do what we need to do in the other part of the city? This is what the challenge we have, and that's where we're at right now, there's more to this city than the fire and the police. I love what they do, and I want to keep, but we have other things going on.
I've been sitting, of course, I was over there last time, but the same thing happened. I believe it was Carolyn was on the board when they decided to not transfer $250,000. Do you remember that? And they took it straight from the police department. So I told them pick 5 guys out there, that's who's gonna lose their job.
I don't want to get in that situation, but we're.
You know what I'm saying? So
right.
I think I set a 3-5-year plan. I mean, we need to, I understand what you're trying to do, and we're gonna have to do it. We're gonna have to do some cuts, but I don't think it should all come from the fire department, the police department. I think we have got to look for revenue. We've got to look for grants. The young lady spoke about grants. We don't go after grants.
Yes, we're in.
I mean, I've got, Barry Warren is one of the best grant writers there is. He's never lost a COPS grant. Never.
We're already looking into all that. I understand revenue. I'm fighting like heck to try to find it. I know it's out there, but it also takes time to get there too.
But that's,
you have to have the money to match the grants.
but that's what I'm saying about such a huge steps in infrastructure, huge step in other monies that are there. I mean, we don't have to take that big of a step. We don't have to take, Commissioner Redding talk about flying to California, not walking to California. Well, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, it comes down to, you say you get the service in the same Gordon says it is. I mean, that we got to somehow sit up here and.
I mean, he knows what he can supply, and I know what I'm doing.
Y'all did a great job, by the way, Mr. Gill. Great job. The way y'all caught that man, when he shot me, y'all caught him with 24 hours.
Ma'am.
You're making a mistake if you let them go.
We're gonna keep order here. All right. Any more questions? Okay. Thank you. It was mentioned, it was not a motion, that we possibly postponing it till we put it on the referendum. That was said by Commissioner Mortimer.
Yes. Would you like for me to put it into the
If
form of a
that's
motion, sir?
if that's your thing.
Okay, sir. Mr. Mayor, I move that we will put the police chief's position on the ballot at the next general election in
March 19th.
March of 2024.
And I'll second that.
than just leaving everything like it is
Yes,
and putting
sir.
that on the council?
Until that time, until the people speak.
We work for the citizens, I'm on part second. We work for the citizens.
That way, I have a motion.
Yeah, I did the second.
You did the second?
Right.
That's not
Okay.
a comment yet.
I know, okay.
Yeah, you can
Okay,
comment.
we have a motion and a second. Do I have, any further discussion?
There you go, that's you.
Further discussions, I gave my second on this because we work for the citizens and they should have a voice. And they vote for us in office and they can vote us out of office if we're not doing what we're supposed to do. So I'm gonna leave it in their hands.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any, go ahead.
With this motion, does that mean that we can't move forward with the sheriff's office? Or that's just putting this on there? We can make another motion, correct? To
My motion was to leave it as it is until the referendum is voted on.
Okay.
That's my motion.
Okay, clarification.
I got a question. Can I ask a question? Sheriff, where'd you go? How good's this offer? How long for?
Right now, the positions we have, so.
I understand that, but,
Yeah, move tonight, not do that, we gotta start filling positions tomorrow.
Okay.
We just been sitting on them in anticipation, whatever may or may not, because we won't be able to get them. As many of these employees that want it, will have the job.
Say that again?
We wanna make sure that we have the positions available to fill those positions with men and women of the police department, so we can give as many jobs as possible.
How many positions do you have?
5 right currently. And you got some concurrent officers that can work in the jail, we got a position there.
How many there?
Major McKinley? Oh, Captain Jennings, 3.
2, 3?
2, they filled 1, so it's 2.
That's 7.
That's 7 there plus on our side, so there's more than enough there. Starting salary, I think the correction starting July 1 is 46, 47, and deputies moved to 48, some change with their holiday pay, it makes about 55.
Won't you make this offer good March 19th?
I can't, because we gotta fill the positions now, I mean, we're just kinda holding,
You're
working
talking
on
about the
overtime.
numbers, I think you're talking about.
Yeah, the numbers. I'm not talking about the positions. I'm talking about waiting until.
Oh, I gotta take what I get, because y'all can just say, hey, we got no chief, we ain't gonna do the police department.
Well, I was gonna bring that up, but I didn't, since you put it on the table.
Right.
If we decided, okay, we're just gonna not have police at all, you statutorily have to provide the city of Starke with law enforcement. But
Absolutely.
then that would be on your terms.
It
But
would be on my terms, and here's what would happen, I would assure my commission, I got 2 of them here, would probably say, okay, they want additional services inside the cities, and what you see in most counties, they create what they call an MSTU,
Yeah,
multiple service
right.
tax. And when I looked at that, most of those go at about 1.5%,
Okay,
or
which is what
1.5
you-
mils.
okay.
So that's what I proposed, because Baker County gets paid for 4 deputies and a patrol car every year, is what they get for the city of McLean to patrol 7,500.
What if we don't want additional services, want just regular do like you do all the other cities and have a police, sheriff patrol, and if we didn't have.
You get it.
one,
You get it?
and it would be no cost.
Huh?
Another 1 point.
But yeah,
We already pay that.
No, I'm talking about the municipal service and taxing district. Probably what my commission would look at and say, hey, how are we gonna afford to budget that to make sure you get the service you need? So you're talking about 1.5 mils, that's the reason I proposed the 1.5 mils. Now, would I like to have 3? You didn't do fire, so I'd go with 3 and give you more, and give you better services if that's what you'd like. But I mean, it's a cookie cutter, you get what you want, but to get the same additional or better services now, that's what it's gonna cost.
Explain something. Now, you're saying with 1 point something mil go to the whole county or just to the city of Starke and pay that?
You know, the service taxing just to the city of Starke.
Don't we-
You got a responsibility, read that ordinance book you got, you got an obligation and a responsibility, so that's the reason I was trying to be humble about it, because if y'all do that, it puts me in a particular situation, and right now, your residents don't know. Response times are good, because when your police are tied up, you got a deputy, it's a twofold, and they back us up in the county, when something major happens, they're backing up, just like in Lake Butler, they were on standby to send more. We were able to give 24 deputies on the ground, leave 3 in the county in an hour for Union County. So where?
Have a motion and a second to postpone this, put it on the ballot March 3rd, March 19th, March 19th, and table this right now and, possibly get sheriff back in. Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-2.